All right, Ellie, you got to go, babe. All right, good morning, guys. Good morning, good morning. Sorry, I had to reboot Discord. It's giving me some grief. Donut and coffee. Man, that sounds good. Good morning. All of you guys, good morning. Gino and Paul and Ron and Ed and Andy and Cav. All you guys. Miss Jen's in the house. Who else showed up this morning? We got all the cool kids. I know Haji's here. Chef, you came back. Good to see you. Jay Roth, love to see some of your posts. You guys that come back and say hello, I always appreciate it. It's great to have you here. I'm excited about the day, guys. I'm gonna tell you right now. First day trading your PA and almost reach your goal. Perfect. And then Cav, what is the plan for when you reach that goal? Are you gonna keep trading because you're a badass? You gonna go to sim because it never hurts to get smarter? I love it. And one of the biggest things, guys, is knowing when to hold them and when to fold them. Kenny Rogers taught me that. Understanding when you've won, right? And once you've won, it's okay. Walk away a winner, guys. It's pretty cool because the goal is to get paid. It's like winning a fight, you know. The ref stops it. When the fight's over, the fight's over. Whether you win or lose, it's over. So good stuff. Guys, we're going to get into it today. It's Wednesday. Wow, it is. It's Wednesday, April 24th. And we're going to check news like we always do. And 10:30 a.m., guys, crude oil inventories. At 10:30 a.m., somebody more important than me is going to say something about the reserves, and then people much wealthier than me are going to react to it. I know about it. I see it. I know it's coming. Therefore, I choose not to trade. Do you go against your high probability trend trade rules? Paul, what are you asking me? I want to make sure I understand the question. Do I go against the high probability trend trade rules? I don't know. Do you? Oh, did you? That's okay. I'll get to the charts. I don't know. Did you write your rules on the chart? So let me do that. Did you write your rules on the chart? Your rules. If you did, you should know, right? We'll look at them. I promise we will. But guys, every morning I check news. I'm going to give you the link. This is a religious part of my morning as I sip my first cup of coffee. Um, there we go. Everything that I talk about is going to come from the tutorial section. So you guys that are newer, I want you to embrace this, that you don't need a lot. You don't need fancy bells and whistles. You don't need 50 trades. You don't really need anything other than a pattern that repeats itself, a pattern that wins more than it loses. And that's very much the gist of what we do here. Everything that I talk about, congratulations. Feeling gun shy? Dance with the girl you brought, Mike. Um, what got you here? Let's do this, man. Let's just go totally off topic today because I am so well rested. So, Haji, how did you pass it? I'm going to give three options in the room. Was it luck? Was it rules? Or was it hope? One good day. Okay. So let's try this. What produced the one good day? Was it following your rules? You say rules. So Haji, if and just I'm just spitballing here. If your rules produce the good day, if your rules got you funded, if your rules put you in a position to trade $50,000 of other people's money, what do you suppose your best course of action is? Just throwing it out there. What do you think has the best chance of bringing you success? What do you suppose you shouldn't deviate from? That's what got you there? There you go. Guys, one of the biggest challenges I see is people get funded and they change everything. The realization of money scares the ever-loving crap out of them, and everything they did to be successful, they abandon because they want to get paid. I've done it. Everybody's done it. So when you get funded, guys, and a lot of you guys are getting funded in these. I've been working on a lot of stuff, guys. As we get into the funding company on its way, guys. This is one of the things that I wrote. So Haji, do me a favor, read that. And guys, everybody's welcome to read this. Give me a little feedback if you want, because what I'm doing is I'm creating a blog, and I'm creating these little blog entries that take one concept and kind of get them going here. And man, this is, my brother asked me, he goes, so what's it take to pass an evaluation? And I just verbally vomited all over the paper and gave you what I think it takes to pass. So Haji, it's a 2.5 minute read. Read it. Let me know what you think. Let me know if it makes sense. Everybody do that. And then let's get into it, guys. The tutorial section. This is where all your answers are. Everything that you need to be successful, everything that you need to be successful is right here. The rules, the patterns, the looks, the advantages, everything that you need is right here. And I focus this. That's a different one, Ron. I've got about 5 or 6 of these, and I don't mind sharing them with you guys, and I love the feedback. Here, let me do that. Guys, and I'm trying to keep these all like maybe 1 page. So there we go. There's about 6 or 7 Word documents, guys. Help yourself. One on momentum, one on passing an evaluation, one on termination conditions, your ability to read your charts, divergence, favorable large triggers. Guys, I'm trying to take every concept that I teach and give you a 1-page synopsis with a couple pictures, and I'm trying to simplify everything. My goal is that one day you guys don't need me, that the education is so complete that there's no need for anything other than feedback. And we'll see how we get there. Oh, did I send it twice? Sorry. And that's just reading your charts, guys. That's just reading your charts. So let's do that. Let's talk about this, guys. Your ability to read your indicators. This is what we talk about all day long. My focus, my goal, my hope, my wish, my desire, everything that I want for you guys is that you become a chart reader, that you make that your priority, that you insist that your life as a day trader will revolve around your success reading indicators. Because this is how it works. You ready? Your ability to read your indicators, guys, this will let you know if your rules are met. And your rules provide a statistical advantage. And this is what we're going to do this morning is we're going to talk about the rules for a high probability trend trade. The read confirms the rules, guys. So if you read strong triggers, rule 1 is met. And if you read no termination conditions, rule 2 is met. And if you read that you have areas inside of favorable large triggers, then rule 3 is met. And then once your read confirms all 3 rules, then it's your trade. Then you enter that high probability trend trade. And the thing is you can't put the horse before the cart. And that's the most basic form, guys. And this is what we're going to talk about all morning is we're going to talk about 3 simple advantages that set you up for success. I'm going to give you everything that you need for it. But that's the most basic form is finding the high probability trend trade. But then your ability to read your charts, guys, it's going to carry you on to bigger and better things. And for example, and Paul, I used your chart this morning for this inspiration. If the market is not coming from a good top or bottom, that's your read. Then your ability to recognize that pattern has you thinking that the mid-band may be the first spot for a potential bounce. And it's not a rule, and it's not an entry, and it's not gospel truth, but it's a simple understanding through your chart read that keeps you aware of potential expectations. And when you reach the mid-band in that scenario, even if your rules are met, you enter the trade. But now you have this understanding that you may need to manage differently based on your read. So in class, we are going to point out patterns all day long. We're going to create expectations based on them. And these are opportunities for you to understand the potential outcomes that may adjust your thinking about potential market movement. And if that may seem a little misleading. These are not creating exceptions to your trading rules. Chart reading will create expectations based on the patterns that you recognize, but it's important, and this is going to be the big one for you guys. Don't let your read supersede your rules. Let your read confirm your rules. So I wrote that this morning after 10 hours of sleep and a stomach bug yesterday, and I just thought, gosh, that's it right there. Is your rules, or your read confirms your rules, guys, not the other way around. So we're going to focus on chart reading for a whole hour, really for the whole day, for the next, I don't know, 73 years. Because your chart reading is about 90% of what you do every day. Your chart reading tells you where the market is likely to continue, and your chart reads give you the idea of where it's likely to go. And your chart reads tell you where the market is likely to stop. And all of this chart reading brings you, because the rules are met, to trade entry precision. And then trade entry precision requires management. And it goes back, I don't know if you can see my little laser pointer, we go, your trade management is heavily reliant on your chart reading. So you can't forego the reads, guys. You've got to learn to read your indicators. You've got to keep it simple. You've got to keep it basic. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not smart enough to complicate things. So just follow my lead here. If you really want to get to where you want to be, post in the room. Post everything that you see. Post every question that you have. Show me every trade that you take, win, lose, or draw. Because the idea is that you need to learn what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. You need to learn whether or not your reads are accurate, or if maybe you're working off some half-truths. Maybe you think you understand momentum, but the reality is you're a little fuzzy on it. If you post in the room, I'm going to know that within the first day, and we are going to come up with a plan together to fix your challenge. If you don't understand the second rule and you're struggling with termination conditions, all I need is to see 2 or 3 charts from you. I'm going to understand that, and we are going to create a custom lesson in the moment to get you fixed, guys. So post your trades in the class, but more importantly, tell me what you see. Tell me why you did what you did. Tell me what your rules say. And if you don't have rules yet, tell me what made you feel like that was the best trade to take. Talk about whether you were nervous, whether you were anxious. Let me know what's going on so that I can give you the best feedback so we can work on your chart reads. And then the second thing is make sure that you're using the spreadsheet that Nexgen provided. Guys, this is it right here. And I give you guys a copy of mine every day because I really do. My whole goal for you guys is success. There are 4 tabs on this chart, or on this spreadsheet, guys. The first one is your trade journal, copy of your tracking, and I'm going to show you. This is everything that you do. Every time you take a trade, simulator, live, Apex, doesn't matter. Put it in this spreadsheet, guys, and it's going to pay huge dividends for you, because every morning you're going to study what you did yesterday. Every morning you're going to ask yourself what worked in those trades. You're going to ask yourself what didn't work. You're going to ask yourself what felt easy and what felt forced. And, you know, Haji, you may have done this as you come into your Apex, right? What works for you? Haji, I can tell you because I've been watching you trade for a while. When you have a high probability trend trade, you absolutely slaughter it. And your weakness is what didn't work is split triggers. And I'm telling you right now, I've watched you give away more simulator money, more Apex money on weak split triggers. So my job is to recognize patterns in you guys and help you correct it. Your job is to go back and study it, and you're going to start to recognize these patterns as well. And you're going to start seeing what feels easy and what feels forced. And this little study every morning, guys, it's going to set you up for the day, and it will accelerate the learning. So that's your first tab. Your second tab, I usually do this last, but I'm going to do it first. This is where you become a chart reader in its most basic form. This is where you learn to identify advantages, guys. These green areas are the rules for the highest probability trend trade that I teach. The one that wins typically 70 to 80% of the time. The one that teaches you to be a chart reader. Fill these up. What does it look like when the rules are met? Fill this up with pictures, guys. I mean, just don't stop at 16. I did a lot of work for you because I love you guys. You're my favorites. But man, if you're not filling this thing up all the way down to 100 or wherever these things end, you're doing yourself a disservice, because if you know that you need to be a chart reader, why wouldn't you be strengthening your ability to read charts? Your chart reading will take you to high probability trades, to the perfect looks for you. The next tab is where you're going to begin to create your trading plan. I will give you a trading plan that you can use. I'll let you borrow it until you become a chart reader and form your own. But as you're developing your own chart reads and your plans, you're going to start to fill this up with the things that excite you, the things that you see easily, the things that have been proven to win more than they lose. And then finally, the last one is the client trades, guys. And this is where I steal your trades when they revolve around advantages. This is where I've given you entries for the high probability trend trade, short and long, and I've given you a very mechanical management plan. And you know what? I think I'm just going to hide NASDAQ. Because as you learn to read your charts, guys, the NASDAQ's too much. And in my opinion, gold is probably too much as well. There's a lot of indecision in that market. So focus on keeping it easy at first. Good morning, Erla. Good to see you in here. Take pictures of patterns that repeat themselves. Take pictures of termination conditions. Work on your management plan. But most importantly, and I'm going to say this one more time, guys, let me be a part of it. My whole job is to help you find success. My whole job is to teach you to read indicators. And the more you reach out for help, the more you give me that opportunity, guys, the quicker you're going to get to where you want to be. One of the most common things, and this is just something that came up yesterday, is people reach out to their salesperson and they go, hey, can I get a one-on-one session with Mark? Is there anyone in this room that doesn't feel like this is a one-on-one session with me? Guys, I can't magically make you a better trader because we have a personal conversation, but what I will do is promise you everything you need to be successful in this room. I will promise you 15 hours of live feedback at least every day or every week. I will promise you my critiques on your trades, on your charts, on your entries, on your exits, and I'll give you everything that I have in my arsenal to bring you success. But it's going to be up to you to learn the trigger line of Fibonacci rules for when it's okay to trade. And it's going to be up to you to simulate your trades daily and to take responsibility and accountability for your progression and post them in the room for that feedback. And it's going to be up to you to simplify, to focus, to stay 100% committed to the best of the best until you get good at it. And you know what, Chef, it should. It should feel like your room when you ask a question, because in that moment, the only thing that's important to me is that you understand my answers. So keep doing them. But here's the biggest thing, guys, and I think that this is the one that for me was really eye-opening as someone that teaches this, that watches people grow, is you have to learn the looks. You have to learn the looks so they become easy, and that's where your spreadsheet comes in. Because if you look at 300 pictures of people using the rules, 300 pictures of these advantages coming to place, it's difficult to not recognize it. So if you fill up your section, favorite looks, and you make it look like my section, guys, you are by default going to be a better chart reader, especially if you're asking for feedback. If you fill this up, 25, 50 pictures of each rule being met, you will understand your rules, exactly what they look like, and hopefully it helps you develop a little patience. And if you go back and every trade you take, you study it, you're going to be just fine. Um, One of the most true phrases probably in life is you'll get out of it what you put into it. So be diligent on your quest for success, right? Be aggressive on your quest for education. Be selfish with the time available in this classroom and don't worry about anyone else in this room. Chef, if you have 50 questions, I want to hear all 50 of them. And if nobody else is posting, well, then, man, it's just the chef show that day. And that's cool. I don't mind. Paul set us up. It's going to be the Paul show for 10 minutes this morning because Paul says this is important to me. And this is one of the avenues for me getting better. So, guys, there's your path. Follow it. Tell me what you see. Go back and study it and keep it simple. So, the high probability trend trade, guys, let's talk about it. This is a trade that only has 3 rules. Each rule gives an advantage. Your job is to learn how to recognize these advantages. Rule number 1 provides you the advantage of momentum. Rule number 2 gives you a clear path, nothing between you and your targets. And rule number 3 gives you an entry. And guys, these 3 rules are the high probability trend trade. These are trades that typically win 70 to 80% of the time. These are trades that create a truckload of confidence through the memory of success. These are the trades, most importantly, that turn you into a chart reader. And man, chart reading is magical. Your large chart, we're going to use 2 charts for this trade. Your first 2 rules are met on the large chart. The large chart leads the way. The large chart is a broad stroke of a brush. It's a slow moving chart. Hey, good morning, JW. And it shows the overall opinion of the market. And your first 2 rules are met on the large chart. And the cool thing is before you ever look at this small chart, you will already have a market that's showing you the advantage of momentum as well as nothing between you and your targets. And then we're going to take this 1 bar on the large chart, this slow moving behemoth of a chart, and we're going to refine it. We're going to turn this 1 bar, take an X-ray, and look at the 15 to 30 bars that are within it. This is going to refine the broad stroke of a brush, and you will pinpoint where the market is likely to continue. You will have the best of the best spot for entry. This is going to allow you to reduce your risk dramatically. It's going to allow you to increase your profit potential. And your third rule is the rules for entry, guys. And I want to show you this picture because this is why we use 2 charts. The large chart is a large crowd. You are not and probably will never be the large crowd. The large crowd creates trends, and the large crowd creates momentum, and the large crowd reacts to these areas that you have on your chart. You don't need to be the large crowd at all. Hell, you don't even need to be the small crowd. The small crowd fights the large crowd. They push against everything. Guys, you need to be a remora. This is your large crowd. This is the big money investors, guys. These are the guys that move the market. Hey, Abdul Aziz, good to see you, man. We're a remora. We let these guys do all the work. We let these guys establish the trends. We let these guys react to areas. And when they give us what we need, and you will be able to recognize it, we chomp a little bit. We take our piece, not their piece. Their piece is much bigger than ours. We take what's ours. And then we get the hell out and we wait for the next feeding frenzy. So 2 charts create simplicity. 3 rules create simplicity. And we're going to focus on each rule individually. Whoops, let me go back one. Let me read what you put, Paul. From the years of professional licensing, webinars, personal seminars, I asked someone what I thought were dumb questions. Always. And guys, what you'll find, and Paul, I'm going to expand on that, is when you sit in a room and you wonder about something, there are 50 other people wondering, but pride or ego or something keeps us from asking. Because as humans, we never want to be perceived as weak or stupid or foolish. And let me share, I'll shorten it. I went to a trade school when I was 24. I went to a mechanics school and I was sitting in the theory class. You have to start in theory. And there are 55 guys in there, and most of them are ex-convicts and Hells Angels, and it's a motorcycle mechanics institute in Phoenix. And they're talking about camshafts, and I am clueless. I don't even know what a camshaft is, guys. All I knew is how to ride a motorcycle. So I raised my hand, and I said, hey, what's a camshaft? And the whole class was like, oh, he doesn't know what a camshaft is. And And I got my answer, and I went on, and I graduated top of my class and did all that sort of thing. But there were people that came up to me. Um, there were people that came up to me and said, "Man, thanks for asking that. I was wondering that," but they didn't have the courage to do it. What is a cam? And it was, and Paul, what it did is it did a couple things for me. One, it took away the fear of speaking out, and I think that's important when you're learning, is just being okay, and it allowed me to be vulnerable. And then what really happened is I survived the vulnerability. Even though somebody else might have thought that was a silly question, right? If you've been with me for 3 months, you know what momentum is. But if you've been with me for 3 days, you may be struggling with it. Ask your question. Let's get that answer. That question's not for the person that's been doing this for 3 months. It's for you. So asking what a cam is was one of the greatest things I ever did, because it put me in the role of student, which meant that I was focused on my learning, and it was pretty cool. What is a cam? Cam's a sales rep for Nexgen. So guys, let's do this. Large chart leads the way. Large chart has to have strong triggers. And the only way I can have strong triggers on the large chart is if the colors match. How easy is that? If the background is green on the large chart's going up, guys. The large crowd wants it to go up. So in order to have strong triggers, my small triggers, these solid lines, they have to be green as well. And my large triggers, these dashed lines, they have to be green as well. So here's like the coolest thing ever, guys, is if your colors don't match, if the larger green and the smaller red, guess what? You don't have momentum. If the larger down and the smaller up, you don't have momentum. But if the background is green, the smalls are green, the large are green, guess what? That separation between the small and large, this simple look, it's like scissors opening. Guys, this means that you have momentum. This means you have a market where the odds are favorable for it to continue in the direction of the trend. And odds favorable momentum is an amazing advantage because it pushes that market. Odds favorable momentum can break those key areas where the large crowd's going to react. In a downtrend, when the background is red, both triggers are red. The smalls are below the large, the space is created. This market, the odds are favorable for it to continue down. And guys, this is your first advantage, the advantage of momentum. Momentum will set you up to find more trades. Momentum will let you know that the market is likely to push. Momentum will even, in some instances, cover up mistakes that we make as new users. And guys, we're going to make a lot of mistakes because it turns out we're all human. When I have odds favorable momentum, that's what you're going to hear in class, odds favorable momentum to the upside, we're going to be looking to buy Fibonacci support on that smaller, faster chart. On the smaller, faster chart, it's going to look like a big retracement, but on your large chart, it's going to be one tail. That's it, one tail. We don't trade the tails, we trade the pullbacks, but man, you're going to be able to pinpoint exactly where that tail is most likely to form. And in a downtrend with odds favorable momentum, we're going to use that smaller, faster chart. We're going to sell Fibonacci resistance. It's going to decrease our risk. It's going to maximize our profit potential. And you guys will, in no uncertain terms, be able to pinpoint where that tail is most likely to form. And odds favorable momentum, guys, man, puts you at rock star status. Let's go see if we can find an example of odds favorable momentum on a large chart. Well, gosh, it's all over the place. Strong triggers, smalls below the large, larger wide, angled in the direction of the trend. Look at that, there's the tail. Let's circle it, and when we start talking about entries, let's see if you guys got paid there. And let's do it again. Let's circle it. There's another. And then when everything is going up, holy smokes, there's one of those tails. And there's one of those tails. And then everything is going down, egads and little fishes. There's one of those tails again. So guys, what I'm doing here is I'm circling tails with that odds favorable momentum. Oh man, look, there's even more. And I'm not trading the tails, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back on a smaller, faster chart and see if these gave me the potential for an entry. Is everybody cool with the look? Strong triggers, guys. Let's take a picture of it. Let's start filling out our spreadsheet together. What do you say? I'll draw arrows, and not only will I draw the arrows, I'll say strong triggers, small and large, up and wide, space between the two, odds favorable, momentum. Rule 1 met. Seems like a lot of typing, doesn't it? Just for one look. But what did I do here? I said to myself, well, this is strong triggers. This is why it's strong triggers. This is what I'm looking for. This is what it means to me. Guess what? The rule is met. And then I can do this everywhere. And I just gave myself 4 pictures of strong triggers. And I'm going to share that link to screencast. And I'm going to go to my spreadsheet. And guys, I'm going to go ahead and be a little bit smarter tomorrow by making sure that I can come back and study this picture. Every time I wonder, we'll call this one strong up and down. And now I'm set. Now life is pretty good. I've got a great idea of exactly what I'm looking for. Whoops. With those strong triggers. Guys, this is what you should be doing each and every day. Every time you see it, take a picture. It's strong triggers, and we just saw it. It doesn't last, right? Momentum begins to decrease. Momentum can change. It can go the other direction. So let's stay focused as the brand new user. For the brand new user, for the day 1, day 30, odds favorable momentum is your best of the best for short trades. That is the highest chance of success that you could ever have. But when you become a chart reader, you begin to find more opportunities. So when one of the lines of the small triggers works their way inside, this is your first visual. Your chart read is that momentum is slowing. The expectation is that the market is less likely to push down, but it's still capable. So you're going to make sure that everything agrees should you decide to take a short trade. And when the smalls work their way inside of the large triggers, guys, you have a weakening or a slowing of the trend. And the language that I use is anything can happen up or down. Anything. It may go up, it may go down, it may flatline and fight for a little bit. But when I have these weak triggers, my advantage is gone. That's it, no more. Which means that if I'm a high probability trend trader, this is where I have to exercise my patience bone. This is where I have to sit on my hands and do nothing. And man, these weak triggers, when you hit an area, these areas are more likely to hold. And that's our little segue to rule number 2. But before we go, let's go back to that big old chart and see if we can find some weak triggers. Dun, dun, dun. There it is. I'm going to take the picture again because this is going to go in a different part of my spreadsheet, but check that out. There's some weak triggers. So let's see what it means. Smalls inside of large means weak. Anything can happen. My advantage of momentum is gone. And I want you guys to see what happened after those weak triggers. And then look, son of a gun, it did it again. So not only do we have odds favorable momentum clearly defined, but now we have weak triggers defined. And with those weak triggers defined, we can begin to create an expectation from that loss of momentum. We can begin to create an expectation, based on that pattern. When I have weak triggers, well, the market's more likely to reverse. So how about weak potential to reverse? And now I can come back and I can study that later. And you're absolutely right. The more you type, Paul, guys, the more you type, and this is why we don't just take pictures, but we type, what does it look like? What does it mean to me? What is it? Because you're reinforcing the ideas. And if you take the time to type it out, your brain is forced to learn it. And create this association with the rules and the looks. So, good morning, Miss Cindy. So 2 charts. Large chart leads the way, guys. Large chart, the direction is defined. The background is green, the market's going up. The easiest lesson you're going to have today. The large chart has already defined momentum for us. Small triggers are above the large triggers, space created between the two. Rule number 1 is met. My chart read told me that I have the advantage of momentum. Is everybody cool so far? Give me a Y in the room if you're comfortable with the look of odds favorable momentum. Because this leads the way, guys. This is the one. That's the money. Now we have to make sure that we have a clear path. Ron, I'm going to kick you out of the room. Not really. Rule number 2 says, on the large chart, termination conditions are false. Termination conditions are areas that may stop the market, guys. Termination conditions are where the large crowd reacts. Termination conditions are that spot where these guys say, let's enter, let's exit, let's go up, let's go down. So when you get to one of these termination conditions, guys, you no longer have room to your profit targets. But if there aren't any, you do. And when you do, you have the advantage of a clear path. The areas that you're going to look for on a large chart are going to be divergence high and divergence low lines. And divergence is a loss of momentum, but we're looking for the lines. And when I give you the recipe, you'll see why. We're looking for red Fibonacci resistance and blue Fibonacci support. We're also looking for these yellow 1-to-1s. And guys, these lines can cause trouble. We're going to use those T3 trigger lines, the same trigger lines that give us momentum, and they're going to let us know if these areas are likely to stop the market, which makes them a termination condition. You're going to understand through chart reading whether or not these areas have the potential to break because of that amazing odds favorable momentum. And you're also going to understand when these areas are broken and no longer a concern to us. So pretty simple recipe to make it happen. It starts with, take a drink of my water. It starts with price reaches an area. And I want you to think of it like this, guys. These areas are where decisions are made. These areas are where the people in charge may enter, may exit. These areas are where fights can happen. So in order to set off that decision-making process, price has to get there. Price has to reach that Fibonacci support. But when it does, all you guys have to do, and I promise you this is going to be the easiest lesson if you just keep it simple, if price reaches an area and the triggers remain above, that area is a termination condition. That area may stop the market. That area may create an untradeable bounce. And that area says no more short trades into that area. So let's take a look at them at lows. And I'm going to share these pictures with you. Maybe put them into your spreadsheet. If price reaches yellow 1-to-1s and the triggers remain above, no more short trades. It really can be that easy. If price reaches Fibonacci support, and all the triggers remain above, no more short trades. And if price reaches a divergence low and the triggers remain above, no more short trades. Guys, this is the most basic way to understand when your advantage of a clear path is gone. This is how brand new users can stay on the right side of things and not trade into areas that could create problems. If price reaches a divergence high line and the triggers remain below, it's a termination condition, no more long trades. If price reaches Fibonacci resistance, if price reaches yellow 1-to-1s and the triggers remain below, guys, no more long trades. You've reached an area that may stop the market. Is everybody cool with that? It feels like a pretty simple recipe, doesn't it? It feels like an awesome way for you to understand when your advantage of a clear path is gone. And you may say to yourself, price reaches Fibonacci support, the triggers don't break, and look at the bounce, right? Weak triggers that support, look at the bounce. Fibonacci support, none of the triggers made it through. Look at that market just rock up to the upside. Look at that, divergence high, the triggers remain below. I can't tell you how effective rule number 2 is from keeping you out of problems, keeping you from creating opinions. How effective price reaches support, the triggers are above, don't go short. Guys, this is the one that is probably one of the most broken rules from new users. This was my most broken rule, was trading into areas that may stop the market. This is the one that took a lot of money out of my accounts. If you just follow the simple recipe, life is easy. So if this is a termination condition, when can I take a trade, right? When is the path clear, Mark? Because you're going to see termination conditions all day. It's like the sixth sense, right? Instead of dead people, you will see terminations. Guys, when your small triggers and your large triggers get below the area in question, in this case support, both the small and the large get below support, well now support becomes resistance. The area is broken, the path is clear, and it's time to look for our rules. And what you'll notice is that when the small and large get below, I have odds favorable momentum. This bar hasn't reached support, which means not only do I have momentum and a clear path, guys, you just pinpointed right where the top of that tail is most likely to form, right at Fibonacci resistance. You sold it, and you rode that wave of momentum all the way down to Fibonacci support. You high-fived your cat. You called your wife, told her how awesome you are, and it was a pretty easy trade because there was nothing in the way and you had all that momentum pushing you. This is what we're learning right now. So for the brand new user, there's two options. Price reaches, no triggers, no trade. Guys, sit on your hands. That's okay. You don't have to be the first one in. You don't have to be the last one out. If the small and large get through the area is now broken. The path is clear. Rule number 2 is met. I want you guys to keep it this simple for 30 days. But what's going to happen is you're going to begin to recognize a couple different things through your chart reading. And that brings us to this. And this is what we call a 50-50 look, guys. The picture in the middle is an area with the potential to break. The small triggers have smashed 2, 3, 4 points through the area. The large triggers are lagging behind. They're a slower moving average. So 50% are above and 50% are below. I'm going to give you a plan to take this one. But the first and most important thing about this look, guys, is that you have odds favorable momentum, that you have the strongest trigger look that you could ever hope for, because we don't expect weak triggers to break areas. So now 69.80, it has the potential to break. But it's not broken because the large and the small aren't above, which means that it's not a clear path, which means that this will never be a high probability trend trade, which means that you are going to rely on your chart reading to be able to manage this trade aggressively. I'm going to teach you how to take it. Regarding terms, can you clarify this look as either 50-50 or a clear path? It has to be one or the other, JW. Great question. So let me show you exactly what I mean. The only time, and guys, I believe that language is very, very important. The only time I will ever say clear path is if my triggers have cleared the previous area and have not reached the next area. So when we look at your chart, both small and large have gotten above resistance. Resistance is support. The area is a clear path. Fair enough? The mid-band is only a termination condition, JW. It only qualifies as a termination condition if only if the large chart mid-band is reached and the triggers are a full bar away. That is the only time that the mid-band behaves as a termination condition. And we're talking high probability trend trade, right, JW? We're talking about high probability trend trades right now. So let's go back to, and I don't know if you saw this, but this is exactly what I talked about in the little thing that I put together today. So let's go into the difference between rules and reads. So JW, your rules for termination conditions say that the mid-band is not a termination condition. Are you comfortable with that? Your read says because this is not a strong bottom, this is not a no triggers through termination condition that reversed the market, the mid-band is the most likely place for the first bounce. Are you cool? It's not a termination, but you know because of the chart read that it may create a bounce here, which means that you just may manage a little more assertively if things change on your smaller chart. You may say to yourself, with split triggers and the mid-band floating in the middle, I'm going to make sure that I take the best of the best. But you do have odds favorable in a clear path. But your chart read, your expectations from this pattern, your recognition, lets you know that you may need to manage a little more assertively. Does that make sense? So your rules say, rules 1 and 2 are met. Your chart read says, I may need to create a little different expectation because of where the market is coming from. And this was kind of the picture that I took this morning. Let me see if I can find the one that I did. Because it's a bad bottom, the expectation is the mid-band may hold. A 50-50 trade is less likely to work. And then my chart read, 3 divergences in the same price range, may have been confirming that that mid-band has the potential to hold to create a bounce. It's the first bounce point. And then my expectations kept me from just arbitrarily getting in. So that, pretty cool, right? So what we're doing is right now your read says that your rules are met, and your read also says because of where you're coming from, maybe we manage a little more assertively if we need to. So definitely a clear path. And all we're doing is talking rules right now. So good stuff. Great question. Did that clear it up? That help a little bit, I hope? Guys, sometimes I talk all the time and it doesn't make any sense at all. So let's keep going on terms. Price comes down, price goes up. We call that a pivot. Guys, pivot is a pretty basic term. Pivots happen all the time. Market goes down, market goes up. That's a pivot. That's a pivot. That's a pivot. Sometimes a pivot has a loss of momentum. That's what this cyan line does. That cyan line tells me there was a loss of momentum. Momentum didn't follow price. And again, I'm gonna reference these a lot today because I really tried to make things pretty simple for you. And here's the picture that kind of goes with that. Let me go to 200. Is if the white bar is price and the yellow arrow is momentum, when this pivot is formed, if momentum doesn't follow price, you're going to see this magenta line. You'll see a cyan line. And all this is a loss of momentum, ladies and gentlemen. This is nothing more than a visual saying, hey, guess what? The buyers stole a little momentum from the sellers. Just be aware. Don't panic. Don't freak out. Don't change your strategy because price creates this. It's not a termination condition. It's not the end of the world. It's not a guarantee that it's going to go up. But when price reaches the line, does everybody remember that recipe? When price reaches this divergence low and the triggers remain above, now that divergence low is a termination condition. Just plain and simple, rules 100%, never changes. Price reaches the area, triggers remain above, it's a termination. But using these divergence lines, we're going to create one more definition, guys. And the definition is that this is now a pivot stop out. When price trades below a divergence line and then back above, or if it's a high, trades above and then below, don't take any more short trades. This is a very clear directive that you'll find in the rules, that you'll find in the user guide, because pivot stop outs may stop the market. They're a termination condition, and they're a pattern that takes more money out of your account than puts it in when you trade into these things. So when you see this pivot stop out, no more short trades. This is not a pivot stop out. This is just a pivot. It becomes a pivot stop out. And guys, this is one of the most misunderstood terms, but you'll see it all the time. And when it happens at Fibonacci support or resistance, it's even more powerful. But the recipe is always true. Price has to reach the area. And then once it reaches the area, if the triggers are above, sit on your hands and do nothing. It's okay. You don't have to be first. You don't have to be the first one in, the last one out. But the cool thing is if you were short, guess what? You knew exactly where profits were appropriate. And once we get here, you say to yourself, no more short trades. Rules aren't met. And look how it bounces up. Man, saved your bacon. But you're not going long arbitrarily because price reached resistance and all the triggers are below. Let's vandalize this picture a little bit. And this is kind of your reminder that 90% of your day is doing nothing. 10% of your day is being an absolute rock star when the advantages are there. Price reaches yellow 1-to-1s, no short trades. Pushes back to resistance, all the triggers are below, no long trades. And guys, green up, red down, they don't agree, it can't be momentum. I'm just doing nothing for about 45 minutes. Price reaches the mid-band, large triggers are a full bar away. I still can't go long, not into that termination. And guys, this happens literally 45 minutes. This is 90% of your day, guys. 90% of your day is just waiting for stuff to come together, waiting for advantages to be present, waiting for your advantages to be present from your chart read. And this is where I see you guys blowing out $1,000, right? Trying to predict, trying to guess, trying to hope, trying to wish, trying to want, trying to do everything but follow your rules. And this is pretty normal because we get excited and we want to be in trade. You've got to learn how to squash this, because what happens eventually, and what happens seemingly every day, is that ultimately one of the areas are going to break. In this case, resistance broke and it became support because all the triggers got above. And the small triggers very much went outside of the large. And that's right where you guys are going to pinpoint that entry for the highest probability trend trade. And the cool thing is you're going to get in here right where the market is likely to continue with all the advantages. And you're going to say to yourself, you know what? That big, pretty red fib up there is a great place to take profits because all the triggers are below and it might stop the market. And what you need to realize is that if you make $450 here, but you blew out 1,000 trying to predict, trying to guess, breaking your rules, guys, you're still down 550, right? So maybe it's not so much the great trades that you take, it's your ability to adhere to rules and not give it away on the trades that no longer have a statistical advantage. And I love sharing that every day because patience is a huge part of what we do, guys. Patience is a big part of why you can find an extraordinary amount of success with the software. But you've got to learn these looks and you've got to learn to trust them and don't let your chart reads turn into rules breaking. So let me ask real quick, is everybody good with the idea that the large chart is going to define your areas using these lines, using Fibonacci resistance support, one-to-ones, that lines can create problems on the large chart when price reaches them and the triggers don't break? Because it's going to take us to another termination. Can everybody hear me? Cav, your picture didn't load, so I want to make sure Discord is working. Okay, cool. There's another termination condition that's going to help you identify by using a smaller chart when the large chart, that slow chart, isn't giving you the information you need to see changes that are happening. Sometimes the market's going down, it has a clear path, and then it just kind of goes up, right? Sometimes even up with odds favorable, no areas reached, the market goes down. Guys, this is a part of the market. We're never in control of it, but we can utilize chart reads to help keep us on the right side of things. This final termination condition is the only termination condition that is true on a smaller, faster chart. This is the only time I will allow a smaller, faster chart to tell me that rule number 2 isn't met. And that's 3 divergences in the same price range. And guys, I just want to let you know, I see somebody messaged me in Discord. I will check it after class. Please don't think I'm ignoring you. 3 divergences in the same price range may terminate the trend. And there's that magical word may. It might, it could. It's not guaranteed to. It's not even should. But 3 divergences may reverse the market. 3 divergences may create a bigger push the other direction. 3 divergences is your visual cue. 3 cyan lines from a low, 3 magentas from a high. This is your visual cue that you no longer have a clear path. That termination conditions are true. You no longer have a clear path. So 3 from a low, 3 from a high says no more short trades, no more long trades. You're going to see this look maybe when the large chart can't give you that information fast enough. You're going to see those fluctuations on the smaller chart keeping you out of trouble. 3 divergences becomes even more powerful when we have those anything can happen triggers. So guys, this kind of is a little backtracking to remind you that if you decided, I don't want to learn rule number 1, I don't want to commit it to memory, well then you may not recognize this little look that strengthens the likelihood that this pushes up. And then that third pivot higher than the previous is a head and shoulders pattern, and it adds even more fuel to it. So just 3 divergences may terminate the trend. 3 divergences with weak triggers makes it a little stronger, and then if you throw in a pivot that's higher than the previous or lower than the previous from a high, it adds strength still. And guys, that's the only time I will ever let the small chart tell me that rule number 2 isn't met. So far today, we have learned momentum. Odds favorable, smalls outside of the large. So your job, ladies and gentlemen, is to go take 50 pictures of odds favorable momentum. And if you're unclear on the concept, it's your job to raise your hand and ask. We have also said that when price reaches an area and both the small and the large don't break through, that area may stop the market. Weak triggers rarely break areas. We see it right here. Even with the smalls above the large, the area still isn't broken. You watch support hold to the tick. There is your mid band, ladies and gentlemen, and the large triggers were a full bar away. How many lessons can we get from just one picture? Pretty cool, right? And if you back it up, let's just go back randomly. Resistance holds, mid band full bar away, support holds, divergence high holds, resistance creates a bounce over and over and over. And guys, if you are not taking the time to learn these simple reads, these biggest advantages, if you're not taking the time to understand direction, momentum, and areas, your entries are going to be skewed for the remainder of your life, forever and ever. Not really. But once you have momentum and a clear path, it really becomes pretty easy because you know that this large chart, it's screaming to the upside and there's absolutely nothing for it to bump its head on. Nothing to create a bounce, nothing to create any sort of fear. So let's turn to the small chart. Let's go to that refinement chart. Let's take the chart that is going to allow us to take one bar on the large chart. Just one, right? That most current bar. And let's refine it. And this is what it looks like, guys. I put a black box around one bar on the large chart. That black box circled about 20 bars on the small chart. So inside of this one bar with odds favorable, inside of this one bar with that clear path or the potential to break, the very bottom, the lowest point, is the beginning of our pullback. The top of that tail happens to be resistance right inside of favorable large triggers. You're going to be able to pinpoint this using the smaller chart. You'll notice that the small triggers turn against you. Who cares? Momentum is established on the large chart. You might even see that divergence. Who cares? Momentum is established on the large chart. And for the highest probability trend trade, guys, this divergence and that little trigger roll might be exactly what we needed to get us back to resistance inside of favorable large triggers. So this refinement process is what's going to allow you to buy low. It's going to allow you to sell high. It's going to allow you to pinpoint exactly where the market is most likely to continue. And you're going to do that by using a limit order. You're going to wait for the market to come to you because really you are that smart. And you're going to wait at an area. Areas on the large chart, guys, they said be careful, cuidado, actum, whatever language you want to speak. These said, hey, guess what? We may bounce, we may reverse, there may be a fight here. On your small chart, areas, fibs, midbands, yellow 1-to-1s, they create a bounce point. They create something solid for that market to ricochet off of so that you can get into the market at the best of the best spot. But the key to it is making sure that they're inside of what we call favorable large triggers. So once again, guys, on those little blog entries that I put for you, one of them is dedicated to favorable large triggers. And one of the biggest advantages that our entry rules give us is the ability to pinpoint with amazing accuracy. I love it because that sounds pretty dramatic, doesn't it? Where the market is most likely to continue. Here we go. I'm putting it in the room exactly what I'm reading off of. And it's a combination of two things. The first is identifying favorable large triggers. And this means that your large and your synthetic, they're one on top of the other, guys. They are, man, Discord is seizing up on me. They're overlapping like two snakes riding piggyback, really giving you the absolute highest chance of success. And what that looks like, let me blow up the picture for you, is it looks just like this. Large and synthetic, one on top of the other. There we go, now it went in. And it's this tightness of the triggers that gives you the highest chance of success, the smallest window of opportunity, the least amount of risk. Because price pulls away from these moving averages. That's all the triggers are. And because the market moves in a series of ups and downs, price tends to return to them as well. And we utilize the returning to the large and the synthetics during pullbacks for entries. And all these are is an area for correction. All these are is an area where we expect the market to go to. We expect price to pull back to the triggers. Guys, this is what sets us up. But these triggers are like clouds, and they're not solid. They're just moving averages. So we're going to tuck into those clouds areas, fibs, midbands, yellow one-to-ones, and give the market something solid to bounce off of. So I want you to think of it kind of like these areas, fibs, midbands, yellow one-to-ones, are like the brick walls, and you're throwing a tennis ball. But we want that brick wall to be in the triggers, because what this does is we say the market's probably going to come back to the triggers, but I'm going to give it something to bounce off of, and you're going to be able to pinpoint exactly where the market is most likely to continue using those triggers. And I'm going to show this picture, and hopefully I can blow it up a little bit more. There we go. So there's two looks. You can have favorable large triggers where they're one on top of the other, where they're stacked, and that correction point is small, and the potential for where your entries come from is small, which means that your risk is small. But when these triggers begin to split, you end up with two correction points. You end up with indecision. You end up with guesswork, and you don't know where it's going to come from. So I'm gonna say it, and I'm gonna stress it, that for the brand new user, for the brand new user, there we go. The most effective thing that you can do for your trading is insist on favorable large triggers. Insist on the smallest area for continuation, because that's going to be your highest chance of success. That's going to be what sets you up and puts you in the position to have the least amount of risk, that puts you into the market where it's most likely to continue. And guys, that's the one. And we spend 30 days focused on entries. And this is straight off your spreadsheet that I gave you. The rules have to be met on the large chart, guys. This needs to be a non-negotiable for you brand new users. You have to have momentum. So it's imperative that you understand what momentum looks like. It's imperative that you associate this look with the advantage of it. That you say to yourself, with this separation, this is a market. There's likely to continue in the direction that it's headed. Paul, there is no place to find it. It's not a real blog yet. This is me. This is me trying to make life easy for everybody. So I'm going through everything that we talk around in this room, and I'm trying to shorten it into a single page synopsis. Eventually, when the funding company begins, there will be an educational resource that I'll be in charge of, and that's probably where it'll come with. But I've given you everything that I've made so far. I don't mind sharing it, guys. I don't want to keep anything from you. So rule number 1 has to be met, strong triggers. Rule number 2 has to be met, clear path. And the further you deviate from these two rules being met, the less likely you are to succeed. It's just a fact of life, guys. Step 1 says wait for the reversal bar in the smaller chart. Wait for the small crowd to begin the push. Wait for this reversal bar, and this is going to set everything into motion, guys. The reversal bar is not your entry. The reversal bar is going to tell you, hey, let's find those trigger lines. Let's look for that correction point. Let's go from the lowest line of the triggers, whether it is large or synthetic, and let's go to the highest line in the triggers. And you can see how the tighter they are, the smaller that box would be. My correction point extends from about 70 to 50. That is a 20 tick range, guys, a $200 range. But that's not where the market is most likely to continue. I don't enter when the price hits these triggers. What I do is I identify the areas inside. Fibs, midbands, yellow one-to-ones. Have I said that enough for it to dig in a little bit? Your window of opportunity, the point where the market is most likely to continue, your best chance of success for the least amount of risk and the highest chance of success and the high probability trend trade will extend from the lowest point of resistance, this one happens to be a red Fibonacci, to the highest point of resistance, which is, whoa, that midband. So guys, you took from 50 to 70 and refined it all the way down to 59 to like 65. 6 ticks. 6 ticks wide where this market is most likely to continue. Once you can identify this, guys, you're there. That's your one. That's the money. The only thing left for you to do is to activate a limit order just below. Tick or two below that window of opportunity, because remember, the large chart is absolutely screaming to the downside. The large chart is flying with nothing in the way. I don't expect the small crowd to get a lot of work done. So my limit order's there, And if they reach it, if the small crowd can push, notice that the small triggers turned against it. Who cares? This is the best momentum ever. Notice there was a divergence. Couldn't care less. It takes 3 to keep me out of a high probability trend trade. I'm now in a short trade, and I'm in a short trade with odds favorable momentum. And I'm in a short trade with the advantage of a clear path, and I'm in a short trade because I entered where the market is most likely to continue. And go in the other direction, guys, it looks exactly the same. Odds favorable, clear path. Let's wait for a reversal bar. Once we get it, let's find some triggers. And once we find those triggers, let's see if there's any solid areas inside to bounce. This creates my window of opportunity. You've got to practice this. You've got to go back and look at it, take pictures of it, commit it to memory, define this area, so much so that you develop the trust to activate a limit order and wait and just say, you know what, I've done everything that I can do. I've given myself the momentum advantage. I've given myself the clear path. I've identified where the bounce should be. I've activated my limit order. You know what? Let me sit on my hands and roll 6 feet back from my monitor, and let's just see what happens because I've done my part. And guys, once you can identify this entry, once you can pinpoint where the market is most likely to continue, it'll change your world. Because when you can do it for the high probability trend trade, this is the one that typically wins 70 to 80% of the time. And because you know where the market shouldn't go, right? You can do stops, but look at this. If I circle the tail on the large chart with the rules mat, I don't trade the tail. The market's way up here by the time you see a tail. If I buy the pullback to support inside, guys, this is my study tool. This is how I'm going to go back and prove. This is how I'm going to go back and develop trust. And it all stems from, look at how tight the window is where the market is most likely to continue for a long trade. Look at how tight it can be for a short trade. And once you know where the market is likely to continue, guys, you know where the market shouldn't go outside of that window of opportunity. And you'll place a stop, 4 or 5 ticks there. And you'll say to yourself, you know what? If the market exceeds this window of opportunity, I don't want to be in the trade anymore. And you're going to have to remind yourself, new users, that anything that wins 70 to 80% of the time is obligated mathematically to lose 20 to 30% of the time. And you have to develop this okayness with losing. You have to become comfortable with losing. But if you lose a trade with momentum, with a clear path in an entry area, it shouldn't faze you in the least. You should say to yourself, man, I gave it the best shot possible. It didn't work out. Let me wait for these rules to be met again, and I'll take the next one because I trust it. I believe in it. I know that this is a trade that typically wins 70 to 80% of the time. And the cool thing is with those advantages, more often than not, you'll end up with a reversal bar in the direction of your trade. And you'll reduce your risk even further, a couple ticks above it or below it if it's a long. And it's not uncommon to see you guys take these high probability trend trades that don't work out, right? That cost of doing business, those losses that are a normal part of a positive equity curve. But because you identified where the market was most likely to continue, because you held out for that area, because you waited for the reversal bar, because you moved your stops appropriately, I see you guys losing $30 or $40 on some of these trades. And man, it doesn't faze you much when you take a loser that small. I've seen people with 2 to 3 ticks of risk on a trade, and then when it doesn't work out, they're like, whatever. That was like lunch at McDonald's. Let me wait for the next best advantage. And guys, you have to go through the process of finding the entries. You have to go through the process of learning the best of the best, and that's a 2-chart process. So let's do this real quick. Let's go back to that tail, and let's see if it gave us an entry. Just short of it, mid-band inside of favorable large triggers. So let's scroll back and see if that one gave us an entry. Right to the mid-band. And again, that's kind of in between, right? And that's a little in between, and sometimes it's not going to be perfect. And as the brand new user, it's okay to insist that it is perfect in the beginning. It's okay to insist that those pullbacks are right to areas inside of favorable large triggers, that those pullbacks come right to the best of the best. Let's do this one because this is the best example that we have. Let's take the cheater off. And let's do this together, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go through an entry together. Whoops, that was the wrong one. Hold on. And the most important thing is that we recognize on the large chart that we have odds favorable momentum. Is everybody comfortable with the look on the large chart? Not only do I have odds favorable momentum, I also have a clear path. These pink 1-to-1s are not in the lesson plan for termination conditions. Can you guys give me a Y in the room if you see it? Because we're going to go through the whole process together. Can you guys hear me? I can skip it if you want. Okay. Steve, I don't have a NASDAQ chart up. I'm going to start avoiding that for class. If you ask that exact same question in the owner's room over there in Trader Chat, you'll get a much faster response. Sorry, I've stopped bringing the NASDAQ up. There's too many idiosyncrasies. It's bad. It's not for new users. Sorry, man. So rules are met, right? Odds favorable, clear path. Hell, I'm even coming from a termination that reversed the market. This is the best of the best. And the market is screaming up, guys, and so is my small chart, right? I've made the decision that it's time to look for an entry. You guys remember what I'm waiting for on the small chart? What do I need to have happen over here to set me up? The market just keeps going up, bar after bar. What are we waiting for, guys? Anybody? New users? What's that thing that lets me know that the small crowd is prepared to fight? The reversal bar. I'm not jumping in. And guys, if you did jump in on momentum, guess what? There's your loss of momentum, maybe a management opportunity. So once I get the reversal bar, I need to look from the top of my triggers to the bottom of my triggers. Is everybody with me so far? This is my correction point. This is where the market may push back to. But the correction point isn't enough for me, guys. I want something solid for that market to bounce off of. So I'm going to identify from my highest point of support, which happens to be yellow 1-to-1s inside of favorable large triggers, to my lowest form of support, that mid band inside of favorable large triggers. And guys, I want you to see how precise this window of opportunity becomes. Is everybody with me so far? My limit order is going to go 2 ticks above it, maybe 1350. And that white bar represents my potential entry if the small crowd can do their thing. If I jump in here, where shouldn't the market go for this trade, guys? How about 5 ticks below 1226? So how about right there at 11? I know before I ever enter this trade exactly where the market shouldn't go, and therefore I know exactly where my stop's going to be. Small 1-to-1s are irrelevant on this chart, Muser. They come into play on the NASDAQ, not on a small chart like this. There's too many fluctuations. They show up everywhere. So I have my entry area, and I've already got it in my head where my stop's going to go, 4 or 5 ticks below the window of opportunity. And now I just wait. Whoops, and I hit the wrong thing. And the market comes back, and it comes back, and I'm in a long trade. And I'm in a long trade with the advantage of momentum. And I'm in a long trade with the advantage of a clear path. And I'm in a long trade from where the market was most likely to continue. Is everybody good with this? Things that you'll notice. This little tiny 5-1 chart tried to go up. A lot of you jumped in there and you didn't wait for the area inside. Well, your risk is way bigger now. I'm in, and I'm still in the window, right? I'm still in those triggers, and it pushes a little lower. Right to the bottom of the correction point. How freaking amazing is that? And then it gives me a reversal bar. And I can reduce my risk. Oops, I keep hitting the wrong button. And it comes back down, and then it runs, and it fluctuates, and it might have hit my stop 2 ticks below. But guys, your goal is to find this entry, and I want you to see something. On the large chart, if I slide the box over to where the market went, It's pretty much the tail. But that's the recipe. It doesn't guarantee a win, guys. It doesn't guarantee an entry. It doesn't guarantee anything other more. Here you go. Hold on one second. So Steve, go to the traders chat and just drop it in there. And what's cool is if you look through there, you'll probably see one of my brother's charts on the NASDAQ anyway to compare to. But this is where most of your NASDAQ traders are, is over here. This is where the people that have the ability to trade a market that fast are. So let me give you a link to it just so that you can follow it. Whoops, hold on one second. Copy link. And that'll take you over there, and you do have access to it. And just drop it right in there. Here, I'll get it going. There you go. We'll see if we can get that. No worries. Someone will probably drop one in there any second now. And if not, follow up and you'll be good. So guys, high probability trend trades mean that we don't trade into areas likely to stop the market. And when you trade from areas rather than into areas, life gets easier. So are there any questions about any of the three rules? Are there any questions about the high probability trend trade? You guys want to know the easiest way to understand it? And I've been given this every day for 2 weeks, and I don't think there's anybody that's done this fully yet. Take 25 pictures of strong triggers. Take 25 pictures of weak triggers. Take 25 pictures of termination conditions. Take 25 pictures of clear paths. Take 25 pictures of the 50-50 look, and take 20 pictures each of identifying the window of opportunity for both shorts and longs, guys. I'm going to say with the utmost confidence that if you go through and you take 25 pictures of strong triggers, you're going to have very little trouble identifying when momentum is the best of the best. And if you take 25 pictures of weak triggers and talk about the reaction from them, you're going to begin to trust the idea that weak triggers really aren't an advantage. And if you take 25 pictures of the market reaching an area, right, and the triggers don't break and you get that bounce, very much like happened right here, then there's no doubt in my mind you're going to begin to recognize, you're going to begin to trust, you're going to begin to look for, not only to take advantage of, but also to avoid. And guys, I can't make you do this. I can't make you go take 265 pictures. But I can tell you without hesitation that the people that have started this process have come back with the feedback that their clarity has improved dramatically, that their ability to recognize these things in the live market has gone up dramatically because they're taking pictures of a market that isn't moving. They're taking away the stress of trying to learn while trading. They're just going back and learning the looks. But the task isn't to just take the pictures, guys. You have to annotate with the whys, right? So the same way we did it on this one, where did it go? Shoot. Why is it strong triggers? What does it mean to me? How does it relate to the rules? And what you're doing is the process of typing, of taking that time to take the thoughts from your brain and transfer them to the picture, to associate that thought process with the look on the picture. It cements your ability to recognize it. And if you do that for each individual picture, don't cut and paste, right? Take the time to type it out. It's gonna drill it into your head, guys. And you're gonna piece together these looks to create a trade. And you have to understand the parts, and then you can recognize the whole. And then once again, I've gotten you started, guys. So my spreadsheet is at 17, which means that you need to take it to 42 to do your part. And this one's at 13, which means it needs to go to 38 to do your part. I've got 45 people in this room. 44 of you aren't going to do this drill, but you're still going to be mad as hell tomorrow that you don't understand these concepts. And 44 of you are going to fight it. And 44 of you aren't going to feel like you should have to do that much work because you paid for software. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you do the work, you'll get the results. There's no doubt in my mind about it. Look at that termination. Look at the reaction. If you don't understand termination conditions, guys, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. So the next thing that I do, and this is the next part of class, guys, is I give you the most simple plan that I could ever come up with. I give you the plan that is your stepping stone in your learning journey, that optimizes your chances of success with the high probability trend trade and the 50-50 trade. And I think it was Haji that said earlier that he got funded in Apex using this plan. And it's going to be through simulation, through study, through class feedback, through continuous practice. You're going to create your own plan, guys. You're going to be empowered to craft a plan tailored to your personal goals based on your experience reading the indicators. Until you are so comfortable and confident reading your indicators, guys, and I promise you, if you streamline it, it's going to take you like 20 to 30 days tops to get these simple concepts down. Until you're good at it, this plan is a great way to stay focused. If you are coming back to me and you're having challenges, hey, Mark, I can't seem to find any winners. Well, usually it's because you're looking for all the winners, but you're not looking for the advantages. Begin speaking to yourself in advantages. And your simple plan for consistency, guys, it starts with never fighting the large chart. Don't fight the large chart triggers. Don't fight the large chart direction. Don't trade in determination conditions on the large chart. If you can do that, you're like 60 or 70% of the way on your way already. The KISS plan is designed to get you in first and foremost on a high probability trend trade, and it provides you a checklist with pictures of what it means to have those advantages in place. I'm also going to give you this right here. This is the exact same checklist, and it's something that you can print out, that you can put on your desktop, something that you can write on your chart to make sure that you're policing yourself, doing the best of the best, right? And I've never had anybody follow this checklist to the letter and do worse than 70%, guys. Never. I don't imagine you'll be the first. I've also dropped into the room the exact same checklist with what the looks look like. So guys, when you're looking for a good top or bottom, it's a termination that reverses the market. There's even a video to help you understand that. Odds favorable, anything can happen. So if you're taking those pictures and filling out your spreadsheet, guys, you have a cheat sheet to make sure that you're doing it right. Termination, potential to break, broken. Once again, you have a cheat sheet to make sure that the homework you're doing is being done correctly. And then windows of opportunities both directions, guys. All three of these are in the room now. You have access to the pictures of what it means to have the rules met. You have a checklist that you can print out and put on your desktop. You have a KISS plan that's focused on your entry. You have a spreadsheet that creates recognition. And hell, you even have a very clearly defined 100% chart reading 101. How do I get there? I'm giving you anything and everything that you need, promise. So focus on your entries for 20 days. Get into the market where the market is most likely to continue. Be able to identify that point, guys, because once you're in the market, you're going to have to manage it. And day trading's like eating an elephant. If you try to just win, if you just try to make money, you're going to become overwhelmed. But if you take it step by step, if you embrace momentum, right, and you learn those termination conditions, you're eating that elephant one bite at a time, and it doesn't feel so overwhelming. So the next bite is management. And you will craft a plan tailored to your personal goals based on your ability to read the charts. Guys, when you're a chart reader, you'll manage completely different than you do as somebody who's brand new. So while you're learning to become a chart reader, your management plan based on the KISS plan is the most mechanical, methodical, pragmatic approach ever. And it stems and begins with 100% your ability to enter where the market is most likely to continue. So if you can't pinpoint where the market is most likely to continue, then you're already creating a disadvantage for yourself. If you don't know where the market shouldn't go, well, then you're probably going to make mistakes on this very simple approach to management. So make sure that you can do that. And if you can't, raise your hand, guys. take advantage of the time in this room, because once you're in, it's either going to hit your stop, and that's a normal, it happens 7 out of 10 times, right? Or it's going to give you the reversal bar. And if it gives you the reversal bar, guys, this is all if then. If I get a reversal bar, then I will move my stop 2 ticks above it. That's it. And there's nothing else to do. I'm either going to get stopped out or it's going to go to my first target. And my first target is a brand new user following the KISS plan, learning to read charts, looking for success to build confidence is only $100 in the distance, guys. And that $100 feels good. To the brand new user, that $100 feels like $1 million. That $100, oh, your heart stops racing and your palms dry up and the pleat in your chair starts to settle. And guys, it goes in your bank and they can't take that from you. That's in your account, in your trading account. And your new stop is break even. And you're saying to yourself, the whole reason I entered this trade was because of odds favorable momentum and a clear path. This break-even stop is going to give you the courage to hold on for the second target. And your second target is only $200 from your entry, which means that if you hit it on that second contract, guys, that's a $300 trade. One $300 trade a day is $72,000 a year. I'm going to say that again for you guys that think you need all the money. One $300 trade a day, $150 a contract, is $72,000 a year. That's not too bad for what, 8 minutes of your life? A little bit of waiting? So the goal is that you keep it simple. The goal is that you keep it focused. The goal is that you're so mechanical in the beginning that your only focus is speaking to yourself in terms of advantages, being able to recognize momentum, a clear path, and an entry area, because this is your recipe for success as a brand new user. Your ability to read charts is going to allow you to create a plan. Maybe you start taking momentums, HVAs, edges, whatever you see, whatever patterns you recognize. But in the beginning, keep it focused. Guys, I have people getting funded in these prop firms all the time using the KISS plan. And then when they get funded, they deviate, they break away from it. They stop doing what was bringing them success because they become so focused on the money. And it's a very real phenomenon, guys. So this is a great way if you're brand new to stay focused. This is a great way if you own software and haven't been successful yet to refocus and just start talking to yourself. Hey, this is my best chance of success. Once you can read charts, you can move on to that 50-50 trade, that one area not broken but with the potential to break. And I'm going to use my little slide rule. Me too, chef. I teach the class. Guys, you don't realize this. I have messed up more than you guys will mess up in the next year. I've had 3 years to make mistakes. I've had 3 years to break my rules. I've had 3 years to learn to read my charts, to learn to trust them. 3 years to work through emotions. And I'll tell you what, every day I still have to remind myself that I'm not in control, that my best chance comes from being able to follow the rules. So I'm going to talk about the 50-50 trade as well. We're going to throw that in there. These are your rules for the high probability trend trade. The 50-50 trade, guys, it means that that area has the potential to break. It means that it's not broken, that you don't have a clear path, which means that this bad boy goes away. There is no clear path. So the KISS plan has you focused on momentum to break that area, to give you the highest chance of breaking that area, making sure that your entry is the absolute tightest. So when you look at this 50-50 area, the first thing it says is one area not broken. Not 4 areas not broken, not 3 areas not broken, just one little line with the smalls below and the large above or vice versa. And then this, remember, optimize your chances of success. Is the market coming? Oh, take care, Ed. Hope it's a safe flight. Is the market coming from a good top or bottom? Was there a termination that reversed the market? And if so, mark yes. And if not, guess what? No 50-50. Do you have odds favorable momentum on the 13-2? And if you can't remember what odds favorable momentum looks like, why not go back and double check, right? Separation, strength, all that good stuff. Because if you have it, make sure that the small chart mimics it. And guys, I'm telling you, if you can't mark yes all the way down, the likelihood of success goes down. And then it tells you in big, bold, red letters, if divergence prints, this isn't your trade. If divergence prints, your chances of success are not optimized. If divergence prints, well, that's a visual loss of momentum, which means that when we talk about advantages, you're saying, to hell with momentum. I'll rely on an entry area. I'll rely on 33% of my advantages, and I'm going to hope for a winner. So you have to understand these concepts first, guys. You have to know what divergence looks like, right? You have to know what a good top or bottom is. You have to be able to identify momentum. And then it reminds you that if there's divergence, don't enter. And then it tells you again, if divergence prints, exit the freaking trade. So this is me trying to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, divergence on a 50-50 trade is the absolute biggest killer for new users. Let's see what happened up here at around 940. Divergence on a 50-50 trade. And some of you got run over here. And if you followed the KISS plan, you didn't, right? If you followed the KISS plan, well, then it became easy. And it wasn't difficult. And you didn't have to give that money away. So once again, I'm going to ask, are there any questions about the high probability trend trade? Are there any questions about momentum? About termination conditions? Are there any questions about identifying the window of opportunity and how to recognize it? Are there any questions about being able to go back and circle a tail when there's odds favorable momentum and seeing if it fit the rules? And there's one of those 50-50s, you know? And are there any questions about the idea, whoops, oh, is it going to let me do that? No. That there's opportunities all day long. Some are better than others. And all you have to do is be able to find it. It's on the KISS plan. There is no template, Paul. There is no template for a 50-50. There's just rules. There's rules that are dependent on your ability to read the charts, right? So it's on the KISS plan. It's the second part of the KISS plan. So they're there 100%. They are clearly defined. They're laid out. There's a checklist for you to gauge your entries. Yeah, absolutely. And you just have to practice, right? There was another 50-50, guys, and divergence killed it. And now I have odds favorable momentum. And my small and large are above resistance. It's already looking like support. And I've got those damn split triggers, 2 correction points. And there's no areas in this line, but there's areas in these lines. I wonder if it will correct. I don't know. It might. It might not. I'm never in charge of that, guys. The only thing I'm in charge of is whether or not my rules are met. So I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go stretch my legs. I am going to refill my water. I'm going to go pet my dog. Hey, Don, take care, man. And when I come back, we're going to look at the charts that you guys have posted. And we're going to talk about these 3 advantages on every chart, no matter what kind of trades you took. Because there are a lot of you that take trades outside of the high probability trend trade, and that's okay. Those of you that are not outside of the high probability trend trade yet, I don't want you to play police. I don't want you to worry that maybe somebody's breaking rules. Listen to the lessons on advantages. And when I come back, that's all we're going to talk about. We're going to celebrate victories. We're going to try to correct mistakes, and we're just going to move forward together each and every time. So I'll be back in about 5 minutes. When I come back, we'll start looking at charts, guys. So I'm going to go in order. Rakesh, stop taking them off, man. Oh, it's the same one over and over. I was like, gosh, I want to see everything, guys. I want to see everything. I don't even care if we run over. Who cares? We're going to do it and get you where you want to be. So everybody sit tight. I will see you in about 5 minutes. Oh, right on, Rakesh. Go stretch your legs, guys, because if you sit in front of a market where your rules aren't met, you're going to make up some rules. It happens a lot. There's crude oil. 3 divergences, straight into a termination, not a clear path. Wish in one hand, poop in the other. I'll be back in 5 minutes, guys. All right, guys, I'm back. And let me start by saying, did anybody notice that a 50-50 with divergence ran you over? Just want to throw that out there. I'm going to go through and start clicking on the pictures that you guys have posted. And just so that I don't have to miss out on the chat box so much, I'm just going to open like 5 or 6 and we're going to go through and talk about them. And then if you have any questions, and here's the key, guys. If you have questions about your chart, if you have questions about somebody else's chart, if you have questions about anything, just ask. So Paul got us going. And then let's do this one. So Paul, weak top with divergence, right? So this isn't a rule. It's not anything. All it is it creates the expectation that the mid-band is the first place for trouble. And guys, this is a chart read. This is a pattern that repeats itself over and over and over. And when the mid-band is reached and the large triggers are full bar away, well, then that is a termination condition. It's a termination condition. It is defined 100% in the rules, straight from the user guide. Large chart mid-band if the large triggers are a full bar away. So what you're looking at here, Paul, is a termination condition. None of the triggers get through it, and it reverses the market, which means that this is a strong bottom. Does that make sense, Paul? And everybody else, the clinical definition for the brand new user of a strong top or bottom is a no triggers through termination that reverses the market. Since triggers got through here, he called it a weak top. So this is the precursor that sets you up here at the 50-50. When the small triggers are above the area, but the large triggers are not. And then Paul, the bar structure, the bar next to the triggers doesn't mean anything in terms of the 50-50, in terms of whether or not it could continue higher. Don't even worry about that. You're still in a momentum phase. Small's outside. Don't give yourself too many things to think about. If there is separation between the small and large, you have the momentum you need. So you turn to your smaller, faster chart. One divergence on the 50-50 breaks the KISS rules, right? But as you become a chart reader, a termination that reverses increases the likelihood of the success. One divergence, look at your entry. Absolutely beautiful. You know that this area hasn't broken yet, that it only has the potential. You get paid at it. And then when that second divergence prints, you get the hell out. Paul, everything about this is absolutely spot on, beautiful, perfect. Nice job. You took it perfect. You managed it perfect. And really, that's the one. 50-50 trades don't have to be home runs, guys. There's still an opportunity to make a lot of money on trades that ultimately fail once you're a chart reader. Once again, this is just tail into momentum, almost a clear path, not a real great entry area. And you're relying on support to hold because of momentum and trigger location. So if you took a trade outside of the correction point, you at least gave it something solid to bounce off of, an area likely to hold from the large chart read. And for sure, that's an opportunity. Not a high probability trend trade because rule number 3 isn't met. Does that make sense, Paul? But this goes back to the whole idea. Check this out. Rule number 3 wasn't met, but you still had momentum and a clear path. So you said to yourself, hell yeah, I'll take a shot. Let me manage aggressively. Beautiful. Weak top, triggers through. Second divergence lower than the first does not make it a strong top. So the second divergence lower doesn't make it a strong top. The fact that we pulled back to resistance, that all the triggers are below and the small triggers never even had to roll, I would call that a strong top. But it's not the divergence that does it. It's the idea that this confirms the turn, that all the triggers are down, that you never even got an up push into that area of resistance. It's a great read, just not a rule. Second lower divergence may push lower. When it comes from resistance, may push lower. Great read. And then 3 divergences in the same price range says no more shorts. Let them break. You were 100% right there. It's a strong top because price pulled back to price reached resistance. All the triggers stayed below. And it's a termination. No triggers through, right? And you never even were given the opportunity for the triggers to roll because they never even turned up on you. So I would definitely say there's a lot of strength in that look. And then that's 3 divergences in the same price range. And it just says no more short trades. Relax for a little bit. Let it break. You've lost your advantage. Perfect. The same one. See that? Termination, no triggers through. It just never got the chance to reverse. Beautiful. And then good bottom. There's your pullback to support. And this is the same look, Paul. Go in the other direction. It comes back and retests and nothing blinks. It comes back and retests and nothing blinks. And it makes that one a little more appealing. And that's the perfect entry. And look at the strength in the triggers. And absolutely beautiful. Paul, you're killing it, man. Great chart reads. And I love that you're becoming focused on the advantages. That seems to be your MO right now, is not so much looking for the trades, but making sure that your chart reads support the rules for the trade. And it looks to be paying dividends. Why is that not opening? Give me just 1 second. Jen, your charts don't seem to be opening for me. Let me get back to it. I may have to reboot. Oh, no, they are opening. Sorry, I'm just silly. So Jen, weak triggers at support is a great look, but it's not a termination condition, right? Because the triggers got through. It's just a pivot that reverses. Paul's killing it, yeah. No worries, Paul. So here's the first lesson. If the triggers didn't break, it would have been a termination condition. But this is weak triggers, and if I'm not mistaken, it was confirmed with divergences on the small chart. And then when you get that odds favorable and everything rolls and it starts to come up, you decide to take an entry. It is split triggers, but it is an area inside, so you're taking a chance based on the weak bottom and all the divergences, and you get out of trouble. And I think that's a beautiful trade. And I think that's a great way to incorporate those split triggers to give you a chance for success. Not a high probability trend trade. You're just taking the first shot at the reversal off the bottom. Nice job, Jen. Notice that she's trading with momentum. Momentum is such a great thing. All right, who's next? Paul. Good bottom, same picture. We saw that one. Remember, guys, I'm scrolling through, so I'm trying to get everything. Erla, I got a picture from you. I love that. Okay, Erla, are you with me in here? Cool. So let's see what you did. I see your entry. And let's talk about why you did what you did. You recognize momentum. There's no doubt in my mind. And you're in somewhere down here. And everything says up and the momentum is there and we haven't reached trouble and you have the best momentum ever and you just kind of jump in. Does that sound right? Because of the momentum, because you got above this, you said, I'm going to jump in. Notice that you didn't write anything on the chart, so I have to guess. So your next step's going to be to expand on these arrows and don't make me guess what's in your head. Really tell me, hey, Mark, look at this momentum. It's amazing. Look at this momentum. It's unbelievable. I chose to enter the market because of the momentum. And And then every trade entered has to be managed, right? And I love this because you're trading with both momentum and a clear path. The only thing that you didn't really have was a concise entry area. So you took a little shot at it. And then because momentum is what gets you in, it is perfectly acceptable to let a loss of momentum take you out, which means when you get to the other side, when this prints, it's all right to go ahead and exit. And that'll be the second half of what you do. But the fact that you're going with momentum, that you haven't hit areas, that you're really embracing that look is absolutely beautiful. And then Rob, you posted your annotation, not the whole chart. Oh, you did. You got it in there. I saw below. So great job going with direction. Great job going with momentum. And every entry creates a management opportunity. So we'll just work together and get you to the point to where you start understanding what it's going to take to get you out of that great momentum look. Nicely done, Erla. And then Ron says, if you're going to fight, fight everything. Not gonna lie, guys. Here we go. My Discord is chugging painfully right now. Open the link. And it's not allowing me to open links. So, guys, I may need to reboot Discord real quick, and I apologize. I'm gonna jump out and jump back in and see if it helps me. So I will be back in just a moment. You guys sit tight because right now it's not letting me access any of your pictures. Back in just a second. All right, can everybody hear me? I'm gonna go back up and see if I can get Ron's to open. I just did a little reboot on Discord. Sometimes you gotta do that with Discord. I don't know why. Let's see. Boom, like a champ. Not a trend trade. This is the counter trend trade. White bar really shouldn't work. But guys, I want you to see what Ron does here. And this is a trade that is a result of chart reading, guys. And this is a trade that is a result on his ability to understand patterns based on his understanding of the high probability trend trade. This is a trade that fights momentum. This is a trade that fights direction. This is a trade that fights damn near everything except the idea that when price reaches Fibonacci support and all the triggers remain above, it may stop the market. When multiple divergences print from that same area, it may at least create a bigger push. So Ron takes this and has created a trade for himself that's a little base hit in between. And guys, I'm telling you right now, if you try to do this without the understanding, you're probably going to get run over a lot. This is not a high probability trend trade. It goes against everything that I teach new users to try to keep them safe. But this is one of the magical things about learning to read your charts is you begin to recognize patterns. And the more patterns you recognize, the easier life becomes and the more trades that present themselves to you. So focus on those chart reads. I love it, Rob. Okay, so let's see. This was, who was this? Hold on. Was this Haji? Okay, this was Haji. Weak top 50-50. Got it. Weak top 50-50. Smalls are through, larger not. Even though it seemed like a good setup, there were really no rules met for the entry. The first red fib was outside of the triggers. The second fib was after split triggers. What kept me out, though, was you waited for the divergence to print since it was a 50-50, and it did. And it saved you from your tendency to enter with split triggers and saved you from a loser. Haji, I gotta tell you, brother, I gotta tell you, I seriously, I just got chills. I just got goosebumps. If you have any question, ladies and gentlemen, about whether or not participating in this classroom works, if you have any question about whether or not your ability to read charts are going to help keep you safe and from giving away money unnecessarily, Haji, you took the perfect read and you translated that read to your rules and you said, well, my rules aren't met and I'm not going to take this trade, and it kept you out of a loser. And that is the hardest thing you guys will ever do, is not take the trade. So, man, Haji, I don't celebrate my own victories very often, but I'll celebrate the hell out of yours. And that is amazing. And this is the stuff that I love to see, because it means that your hard work is paying off. It means that your dedication to learning to read charts is paying off. It means that your recognition is paying off. And guys, we rarely see it in ourselves. So you better believe I'm going to help see it in you. You better believe I'm going to talk about your victories. Cav, weak triggers, termination, multiple divergences, pull back to the large triggers. You know it's not high probability. And you get in, hoping that this termination at least gets you to the mid band. You get quick profits. Nice. Quick little snippet. That's very much like Ron's trade. Just go in the other direction. Well done, Cav. Your ability to read charts lets you manage the hell out of that and get paid. Pivot, stop out. Very good. So pivot, stop out. And odds favorable, 50-50, no divergence, perfect pullback, quick money once again. Nicely done, Cav. No divergence on a 50-50. At least gave you a chance. Dude, I love it. I love seeing this. Directly into, let me see where you entered. All right. You know that I can't get in on board with this one, right, Cav? You know that I can't be excited about this one. Bad bottom, directly into a termination. Everything is rolled against you, and you said, man, I sure hope that shit goes up. And it rewarded you with a little bit of money. There are so many problems with this trade. I wouldn't have all been surprised to see you go short rather than long. The large chart can't be the reason for the trade because it's directly into resistance from a bad bottom, Cav, which means that your read is a little challenged there. Well, but the thing is if you did this with live money, you would take a shellacking more often than not. Wouldn't you agree? If you had a bad bottom directly into resistance, especially when everything has been screaming down, the likelihood of this one going up with the smalls below the large down, wrong side of everything, oh my gosh, Cav. So I'm not beating you up, but yeah, don't get accustomed to winning that one. And that's where, that wasn't advice, that was just a chart read. That was just a chart read. I don't give advice, not allowed to. But I will tell you guys if I think you got lucky and I think that you may be hurting yourself long term. And then looks like you took a short and exited. And then with all the momentum in the clear path, you take the momentum. And this is what I love, Cav. This is the one that I like. So let me go from kicking you in the clackers to being, right on, to being supportive. You take that momentum trade. With the clear path, with everything going down. Life is good. Here it goes. And I think that this is one of the greatest things that you're going to get. And Cav, this is your experience showing. You knew that in a momentum trade, a loss of momentum is a great way to exit, right? But you also know that with this look, it's probably going to bounce right here and continue down anyway. And you just said to yourself, I'm already in. I know where my stop should be. I'm not going to let them get me. And you're able to run that one down. And I think that this is outstanding chart reads. This is outstanding chart read. Beautiful. And man, if I hit that mid band, I probably would have added on to the position. I probably would have put 2 more contracts on because it's a beautiful high probability trade. Really well done there, Cav. Great hold. I will always celebrate. And let's see what we did. Termination, full reversal, gap theory, and Cav goes long in the gap theory from the termination. Oh no, you went short from the pivot stop out that happened to be the second divergence at the midband, trading the gap theory pattern. Oh, and you were out right where the gap theory finished. Whew. Chart read created opportunity for you. That's pretty cool. In on the pivot stop out as it begins to head down. And that's that expectation, right? When the mid-band is reached and the large triggers are a full bar away, it's probably going to close that gap. And man, it did. And you got paid all the way down. I like that one. It's not my trade, but I sure can read that chart. I sure can understand exactly why you did what you did. And I think you did it about as well as anybody ever could. And then termination, divergence off support, everything's going, momentum, haven't reached resistance yet, no divergence, perfect entry, out at trouble. Sweet. And Cav, the only thing I can say about this, and this is a simulator hold, would you agree? You reach resistance with no triggers through. What a great place to get paid. And you knew that that was probably going to ruin your good time. So you did eventually jump ship coming off of it. But one of the funny things is, Cav, is that was your long trade an hour ago. Just pointing it out. You exited right where you went long an hour ago, even with less momentum into a termination. So I feel like you do believe that that termination condition is problematic. Remember, guys, when you're on simulator, one of the best things you can do for yourself is trade the exact same way as you would if it were live. All right, Rakesh, let's see what we have. So Rakesh, let me make sure that I'm clear on this one. Are you with me in here? All right, so let's go through it. And I think that we can go through this. So you're saying odds favorable momentum, both triggers are up. When you got to 1625, do you see how your large triggers are still down? They're flat, they're lifeless. As you were approaching, they were on their way to becoming up. But when that pullback happened, when you finally got to your entry, they were pretty flat. And that's okay, right? Because if you were coming from a good bottom, that's a great pullback to support. But Rakesh, I think that this is your challenge right here. I've seen it a few times now. And I want you to do this. And you don't have to. It's totally up to you. But if you want to get to where you're going, I think you're a very, very easy fix on this one. If price reaches an area, triggers don't break, it's a termination condition. And Rakesh, you traded directly into resistance, and the triggers didn't break. See how the small triggers didn't get through? Which means that you broke rule number 2. And then even rule number 3, Rakesh, says that your entry comes from an area inside of favorable large triggers. And well, you don't have any there. So not only did you trade into a termination condition, but you also didn't take a trade from an area inside of favorable large triggers. So we gave up a clear path, and we gave up an entry area, And you were hoping that momentum would fix all of that. Does that make sense? Oh, JW, take care, man. So I'm going to turn this into some heavier lessons. Odds favorable momentum, both triggers are up. I'll give you that one all day long because as you were coming into it, the large were starting to get wide and the momentum solid, right? And that's only part of it. So once I have momentum, my job is to check for a clear path. And I don't care if you're taking the high probability trend trade or not, it doesn't matter to me. But I'm still going to check for a clear path because no matter what kind of trade I'm taking, if I've reached an area that may stop the market, well, then I have to expect a bounce. I have to be prepared for a bounce. I have to anticipate a bounce, that there may be a fight. Does that make sense? I guess everybody in the room. Even with momentum, that's only a part of it. So then I have to go to whether or not I have a clear path. And if I don't have a clear path, I have to make the decision right here. Do I still want to try to trade into that area? And if the answer is yes, if the answer is, you know what, without that clear path, I'm going to make a decision. I'm going to say, you know what, I'm going to make sure that momentum is the best. And I'm also going to make sure that I have the perfect entry or that I have the highest chance of success. And that's where the challenge is. And I think terminations, I've seen 3 charts in 2 days. And every time you've been void of a clear path and your entries, the first 2 were just jump in, momentum entries. And that's cool. I like those as long as there's a clear path, right? But I think this is good. And there's just nothing saying that this market is likely to go up. And then Rakesh, one of the other things is, do you notice that it just kind of pivoted from nowhere? Which means that the likelihood of these areas above it breaking are even lower. I understand the green background is great. Above midband, I don't understand how that worked into there. When you entered on the small chart was green area. If you look at the trade, it went up so good you got stopped out with only 2 ticks. What's your area? How can I look at the trade? This is all that I see, Rakesh. I see your entry. That's it. And I see that you said that you got stopped out. Anything else requires guesswork. Do you want to show me the second half of it? And does you stopping out with only 2 ticks change anything about the termination condition? Does it change anything about not having an area inside of favorable large triggers? So am I mistaken? Okay, people love to tell me that, but Mark, I made money. That's cool. How consistently are you going to make money trading in termination conditions? That's what you have to ask yourself. How many times are you going to make money trading into areas that aren't broken? Because there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 instances where it would have taken your money. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Holy shit, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So what I'm doing, Rakesh, looking at your chart, and don't take this the wrong way, I don't care if you only got stopped out on 2 ticks. My job is to tell you that you traded into a termination condition, that you sacrificed that advantage. My job is to point out that you didn't trade from an area, sacrificing that advantage. And whether you make money or not, and I don't know if you were listening when I told Cav, I think you got away with one wherever that one was, right? Cav, I think you got away with one here trading it directly into that termination condition. I'll tell you all day long if I think you got lucky. Because the goal is that we stop relying on luck and we start relying on having rules. So what do your rules say? And you don't have to answer in front of the class if you don't want to. You can answer me privately. Tell me your rules for this trade. What made you jump in at 1625, right? And that's what we have to identify. And can you show me this same entry 10 times? Does it win more than it loses? And if it doesn't, and I'm guessing it doesn't, maybe it's not the best trade for your plan. You can keep it in your plan. You can take it all day long. I will never tell you guys how to trade, but I will tell you that when you're looking at stuff and you're trading indetermination conditions, I'm trying to see where you got in on this one, 1034. So this was a 50-50, it looks like. You didn't quite reach support, but you're into problems. It's into termination conditions, and you made the choice to trade because of no divergence and from the areas. And I think that this is a very strong look. If you're going to make the decision to trade into termination conditions, I'm not going to tell you don't, because that's your life, and I'm not going to manage your life. But I want you to look at Cav's entry. Odds favorable momentum, and it comes from an area inside a favorable large trigger. So even though he sacrificed a clear path, he embraced momentum and he embraced the entry area, and it creates an opportunity for success. And that momentum and that great entry give him the ability to fudge rule number 2 a little bit and manage it a little assertively, a little aggressively, and pull something out of nothing. So that's all we're doing here. Ron says 3 divergences, higher divergence, everything rolls. This is not the best look. This is price coming off of an area the triggers didn't break, and he has odds favorable on a small chart, and he takes a run. No, Rakesh, absolutely not. So let me be clear. Blue fib is support, always. Blue fibs are support. And it doesn't mean that the market is going to go up from there if it doesn't break. Not at all. It could mean that the market is going to dance in between 2 fibs, right? It could mean that it's going to overrun a little bit, and then it may go up. So a blue fib doesn't mean that the market's going to go up. It means that it's an area that may stop the market. That's it. And sometimes areas don't break. And let me see if I can find that picture that we took this morning real quick. Sometimes areas don't break right away, right? And sometimes it takes a little bit for an area to break. And sometimes you just have to say to yourself, where's that picture? That there's just nothing to do. Just because it held doesn't mean that there's a trade right after it. You still have to wait for your rules to be met. You still want to wait for those advantages. You still want to get to the point that even though this area of support held, it traded right back into resistance. It traded without momentum. But if you sit on your hands and wait a little bit, the opportunity comes. And I think that this is one of the biggest things. It's our desire. My desire is there as well. I don't want you to think that you're alone. That we feel like we have to be first to get paid, that we feel like we have to hold longer than we should to get paid, that we feel like we have to make a decision based on our guts rather than our rules to be able to make the money that we need to make. And the reality is even though this area held, Rakesh, do you see it? It took the market almost 45 minutes to produce a high probability win. And it's the ability to do nothing in this area that keeps you from giving it away while you wait for the best of the best. I hope that makes sense. So just because support held, it was a while later, and this was right after news, before Ron ever dreamed of taking the entry, right? Just because support held here, he didn't trade into these areas of resistance. He waited for everything to clear, for everything to break, and then what it did is it really escalated his chances of success. And that's what we're trying to do in this room is get you guys focused on the best of the best, guys, the highest probability scenarios, trades and patterns that are repeated and proven to win more than they lose. And that's why I talk about these 3 advantages just so passionately. Because when you have all three of them, guys, your life becomes easy. And then Cisco, those pink dots, those 1-to-1s, I don't even pay attention to them on a 13-2 or a 5-1. They're small swing 1-to-1s is what they are. And because there's such a small swing and they're taken from these tiny little fluctuations, on a 5-1, man, they're going to show up everywhere. I like it if they line up with my rules being met. But even on a larger chart like a 13-2, there's still so many fluctuations that go into them. I don't think they're as advantageous as the yellows, because the yellows come from a higher time frame, or not a higher time frame, but from bigger moves. So on a 13-2, those yellow 1-to-1s, man, those come from these giant swings, and this is what people are using. And the only exception to that, Cisco, is if you're a NASDAQ trader. If you're a NASDAQ trader, I respect the hell out of them on a large chart, because your large chart is a 34.5. It's like 3 times bigger than the typical 13-2. So, yeah, I could turn them off on my charts and never think twice about it. Wouldn't faze me a bit. And then, Rob, the 5-1 can look so good, and then you find out that the 13's not. Yeah, absolutely. And that's why the large chart leads the way. Rakesh, I hope that made sense on what I was talking about. Just because the blue fib holds doesn't mean it may help you determine what direction you're going to look, but you still have to have those solid rules, that solid plan that gives you a statistical advantage. And that's what we do. That's what we do. So 50-50, divergence, and you said no more longs. And then when everything rolls and the momentum starts down, you take that first pullback into the large triggers. When the 50-50 fails, that's what we call an apology trade, Jen. And you're going to see this a lot. When the 50-50 fails and the small triggers turn, guys, this is a trade that Nexgen taught forever. You get these little snapbacks right to the area that's holding. Divergences helps confirm it. And it becomes a beautiful opportunity to get down. Nicely done, Jen. That's a chart read, not high probability. That is taking the first best shot at a failed 50-50. But notice that your large triggers are down. Notice that your smalls are below the large triggers, and there's no divergence, and you have all these advantages. You don't have odds favorable momentum yet, but your small triggers at least turn to help out with it. I love this trade. I'm not afraid to take this trade at all. It's a nice one. All right, who's next? And guys, I hope this is helpful, and I hope you don't ever feel beat up if I'm telling you that your trade probably was an enormous amount of luck and not so much a solid chart read. It's never my intention to hurt anybody's feelings or make you sad, but it's always my intention to make you just a little bit better at what you're doing. Pedro, I think I skipped a couple. Pedro, this is a 50-50 trade from a good top with no divergence from the area inside of favorable large triggers. You got to the first target, and then you went break even, and you got stopped out. Did a divergence print, Pedro, to take you out of that one by any chance? I'm just curious. Guys, I love seeing your entries. Your entries excite me. I like to see what happened. I want to see the aftermath, because I'm going to be real honest with you guys. If management is the second piece of what we're doing, Pedro, your entry is perfect. You know how to catch an amazing entry. You understand, right? You know what's going on. I'm hoping for bonuses. We'll see what happens. Good momentum, cleared support. Looks like previous divergence stopped the market. So you traded into the termination condition is what you did here, Pedro. You had it covered up with your limit. So when price reaches the divergence, it's a termination, which is exactly where you got paid on the first one, which means that you managed this beautifully. And this is another example. Great top, odds favorable, into a term. Because of no divergence in the easy entry, I make the decision to trade into a termination condition, but I get paid quickly and go break even. Pedro, I don't think you could have done this one any better. Nicely done. And then Muser. Gap theory starts at the bottom. I love that. Triggers a full bar away. Everything goes up. Odds favorable. Almost a clear path. No divergence. You take the entry at support inside of favorable large triggers. You get out at trouble and hold that thing up. Muser, high five. What a great trade. Does everybody see it? Termination creates a reversal, establishes momentum. It's still a 50-50. No divergence, strong triggers, perfect window of opportunity. And Muser, this one's pretty easy, right? Would you agree, everybody, that this fits the KISS plan? I think it does. I like your rules, Muser. Your rules are sexy as all get out. Is this a pivot stop out, or does price need to go below the previous divergence? It has to go below the previous divergence, Muser, to really have the pivot stop out. Price has to trade below and then back above. So what you have here is exactly what you've called it. Little bit of overrun, they come up, gap theory in place. When it reaches support, all the triggers are above and off it goes. So not a pivot stop out, but a very strong bottom, a very great indication that the market is likely to head up. Great chart read. And thank you for that question. That's a question that a lot of people misunderstand. All right, Rakesh. Ooh, I like this one a lot better. Let's take a look. Whoops. Let's start on the large chart. 3 divergences, odds favorable, and we have one of those 50-50 trades. So we have a 50-50 trade. Let's make sure you understand that concept first, Rakesh. Yeah, Pedro, and I sang your praises all over the place. Let me get through this one, and then I'll backtrack to yours, okay? Awesome. So, let me take a picture of the picture, and we're going to go through it. All right. So, this is not a good bottom. What does that mean? Or this is not a strong bottom. So, this is a higher pivot, but it's not a termination condition that reverses the market. So can you guys give me a why on this one first? It's not a pivot stop out. Price didn't reach the divergence low. It didn't make the fib. It's just a higher divergence. And this is why we don't call a higher divergence a strong top or bottom. It's a 50-50, right? It's a weak bottom. That's okay, but when you know where it's coming from, it helps create expectations. Divergence high line. And I'm going to extend it so that it's very, very clear to see. The small triggers broke through, but the large triggers did not. What does that mean? That means that this termination condition is not broken. It means that it is not a clear path. It means that there is not a clear path between your entry and the riches above. Can I get a why for that one, guys? So it wasn't a termination. So it's not a strong bottom. And it's a 50-50, David. Check it out. 50% of my triggers, the small, are above the problem area, the divergence high. 50% of my triggers, the large, are below. This is how we define a 50-50. And a 50-50 means nothing more than this area, whoops, has the potential to break. This is an area that because of the momentum on the chart, it has the potential to break. And let me go find that picture for you real quick. And let me give you this one. So this is the 50-50 look, when the smalls get above and the large don't. And it's not a clear path, and I think that this is one of the most important things. Oh, no worries, David. Sorry, I'd gotten to the area. The cursor may have been. I need to be careful with that. Are you comfortable with that look, though? When I'm not trying to confuse you? I apologize for that. Cool. So when we have a 50-50, guys, the clear path is gone, right? So let's make sure that we have momentum. Let's make sure that we have an entry area. And especially if it's coming from a weak bottom. Because when you go through the KISS plan, when we talk about the optimization of your chances of success, when we talk about the highest probability of success, when I talk about this 50-50 trade, and guys, this is where it's so important that you understand these concepts. When I talk about the 50-50 trade, you're going to have to understand good tops and bottoms to be able to mark yes. And if you don't understand that very simple concept, I need you to raise your hand and say to me, hey, Mark, let's spend 10 minutes on tops and bottoms, making sure that they're strong, making sure that they're not. I've done it 50 times in class. I'll do it 50 more. All I need is for you guys to ask. But it's so important that you have this in order to take the trade, because this is the one that makes this more likely to win. Odds favorable on both charts is so important because it takes momentum to smash through. And then the KISS plan reminds you, no divergence on the 5-1, because what is divergence, ladies and gentlemen? It's a loss of momentum. And if I don't have a clear path, well, then I'm really very, very focused on making sure that my momentum is perfect. So when we go back to this chart, it's a higher pivot, but it's not a good bottom. So that would be a no in my KISS plan. And let's do it real quick. Let's put the KISS plan right on the chart. And I want you guys to see how a basic understanding of the rules gives you the opportunity to find a much higher level of success if you just spend a little time learning the rules. So that's my first no on my checklist that optimizes my chances of success. Odds favorable on the 13-2, absolutely. That is an outstanding read for momentum. Beautiful read for momentum. Smalls must be outside of the large on the 5-1. Once again, I really don't think you could have read that any better. That's outstanding. Momentum is not a challenge in this one yet. But then it says no divergence on the 5-1. No loss of momentum on the 5-1. And then there it is right there. There is that, that problem. So if I'm just going off of percentages, guys, I've only got 50% of what I need to take this trade. And I want you guys to give me a why in the room if you're with me, because following this plan will change your life in the beginning while you learn these patterns. I've given up 50% of what makes a 50-50 trade great on this trade. If I'm brand new, I probably don't recognize it, and I have to drop this in the room to make sure that I do. And now rule number 3, and I want to go through this one. The window of opportunity extends from the highest point of support to the lowest point of support inside of favorable large triggers. So there was an absolutely outstanding entry if you were going to take it, right here at 83.10. If you were going to take this one and give it a shot, guys, that's the top of your window. That's the best of the best. 83.04 is beyond the correction point. So if you take any time at all, to go back and study windows of opportunity, if you take 30 minutes of your life to absolutely drill these looks into your head, I'm going to show you this. I'm going to click on 10 pictures. Areas inside of favorable large triggers. Next one, areas inside of favorable large triggers. Areas inside of favorable large triggers. So guys, what you do is you begin to believe in the idea that when price goes beyond these triggers, you're giving up an advantage. Does that make sense, everybody? So not from a good top or bottom. It's a little problematic. And guys, I'm going to tell you right now that this is not me tearing this chart apart. This is me working on the chart reads, clarifying some rules, and giving you something to work on to get to that next level. If it's not from a good top or bottom, I need to be able to recognize whether it's a 50-50 or a clear path, because it affects the likelihood of success dramatically. If divergence prints on my small chart, I have to be able to recognize that because it decreases my likelihood of success dramatically. If I try to take entries beyond the correction point, it reduces the likelihood of success dramatically. But what's awesome is I want you guys to see this. If you decided to take a rules-based entry, you were in at 09, and your stop 4 or 5 ticks beyond was at 01, and you had 8 ticks risk on this trade, not 12. That's a $40 difference. That's a $40 difference per contract. That's $80 difference by taking the correct, just rule number 3 trade, by putting your stop where the market shouldn't go, by understanding these concepts. So I'm gonna say one more time for you guys. Gosh, I feel like I'm being a nag, and I don't need to. Hey Ron, take care. Enjoy. Fire up the Bourgeois, huh? Have fun with that. Be safe. Wear a helmet. If you guys do this, and this is Bourget. Bourget, really? It's not Bourget? It's one of those silly choppers anyway. Those things are so hard to turn. I don't know if yours is. When I went to school, there was a guy that had an old shovel head, and that thing was raked out into the next week, and it was terrifying to ride. If you go through and you do this, ladies and gentlemen, if you do this drill, I promise you, if you fill out this spreadsheet, I promise you, you will burn these looks into your brain. You will burn these looks. You'll know exactly what you're getting into, and you'll get to the point where you can go through and you can manage these trades that need to be managed, and you can skip these trades that need to be skipped. And man, Rakesh, your momentum was so great, but there were a couple tiny little things that were working against you. And there are a couple tiny little things that are very clearly outlined in the KISS plan. So once again, guys, if you find yourself losing more than you're winning, it's okay to stick to the KISS plan. And Cav, we already saw that one. We saw that one. I just had to back up and catch some of the things that I missed. And then Rob, momentum trade. Rode it up till you saw divergence, took 410, looking for a chili dog now. So bust my balls in. All right, lay them on the table, because here it comes. Are you ready, Rob? You got your big boy pants on? I love that you said that. That made my day. All right, everybody in class, give me a Y or an N. Is that momentum? Are the small triggers below the large triggers momentum? Oh, Erla says yes. Erla, you are the best. Zorro says yes. Let me rephrase that. Grant says yes. All right. Not yet. Muser says no. So guys, half of you are spot on, and half of you may be taking a chart read. So let me go to odds favorable momentum, and let me just go back and let's just see. Do you guys remember in the very beginning of class where I said the only way you can ever have odds favorable momentum is if all the colors match? If the smalls are above the large, if the large are wide, if there's space between the two. This is the look for momentum, ladies and gentlemen. This is the one that moves markets. This is the one that sets the tone. This is the one that can break areas. This is the absolute best of the best. So for my Erlas and my Zorros and my Grants, we're keeping this very, very basic. And the reason that I'm going with this, the reason that I'm saying odds favorable momentum, is because you called this a momentum trade, Rob. But you did it without momentum. And then the same is true here. If my small triggers are buried inside and even below my triggers, do I really have momentum? What do you think? I have to say no. As the educator of this room, I'm obligated to say that you don't have momentum yet. So I would be hesitant to call this a momentum trade. Does that make sense? So there's a little testicular aggression. And it's okay. I'm not done. So that's the only thing that I have a challenge with. But check this out, Rob. Are you ready? You had 3 divergences in the same price range. The smalls were below the large. He took a long, Grant. He took a long trade with the smalls below the... Oh, okay, I got you. I see what you're saying. You caught the tail end of that. Sorry. So, but let's go next level, right? So let's not just say, damn it, this isn't a momentum trade. This is a weak bottom, but the trend going up is confirmed when price reaches support and it heads up, and these triggers don't even blink, right? So Rob, what you're looking at is a bad top right here that you can't see, straight to support, and that potential continuation from it. And that, my friend, is an amazing read. That's an amazing read. Because when price comes from a termination and everything starts going the other way, then a decision was made by somebody with more money than me that they wanted that market to go up. So if that's what you saw that sets you up for this, then that's a beautiful chart read, right? And then let's go to the next level. The small triggers are up. This is your medium. This is your immediate momentum indicator, the fastest momentum indicator, and your smalls are up here. So you let the smalls turn, roll, you let them get going in the right direction, which means that you have green triggers, green triggers, green triggers. You're on the correct side of the large triggers, and your synthetics never rolled. And you said, you know what? I'm going to clear problems, and I'm going to get into that trade with all the momentum. Does that sound about right? Sound about like what you were thinking? But Rob, here's the only other challenge into this one, is you have super weak triggers directly into a fib with everything below it. And what do we call that? If price reaches resistance and all the triggers are below, can't we agree that that's a termination condition, that that's an area that may stop the market, that it takes away your advantage of a clear path? Which means so far, we're 0 for 2. And I want you to see you were just a little early. Your read was amazing. You were a little early. So Ron told us that's his entry, 25. How come? Because he let price get to the other side of the trouble area. Because by then the smalls are really working their way up and they're starting to accelerate. And at 25, we've cleared problems. And while it's not the same amount of money, it's a much easier way to take advantage of it. Does that make sense, Rob? I love your chart read. I think that you may have been just a little bit early. So in the grand scheme of things, this entry is going to work less than this entry does. Trading into the areas is less likely to work than trading from beyond the areas. So your read is outstanding. And this is where you learn to exercise your patience just a little bit and go full-blown, just super read, chart read, momentum. Everything is great. And then for you, it's awesome. You know, there's your loss of momentum, or right at 40 is a great place to take profits. And that still gives you 150 per contract. Sound good? Fair assessment. We start with the chart read. We talk about the disadvantages. We talk about the greatness. And then we work together to refine your entry to give you a higher chance of success. Welcome to the classroom, guys. This is what we're trying to do on every chart presented. So thank you for presenting that chart. I think there's a lot of great lessons in there. I think that your chart read is amazing. And I think that a little bit of patience takes some of the hope out of the trade, which is pretty cool. And then Grant says, weak bottom, right? And by the time it gets up here, it's momentum and a clear path and a perfect entry. And son of a gun, I just can't ever miss that one. Small triggers were getting close to the large, but still had momentum. Absolutely. And you didn't have a termination condition. You had targets, Grant. Does that make sense? If you haven't reached those areas, all you have, my friend, is targets. You went long, virtually no risk. Your first exit was $130. I know that's predetermined. And your second one was up there at all the problems. And you know what I love about this one, Grant? Is that everything was going up, and I'm guessing, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm guessing as you came into trouble, you're like, all right, I'll exit with a reversal bar. I'll exit when I get to the wrong side of these smalls, but as long as it's pushing, man, let's let it push. And I have a feeling you were chasing it with your stop, weren't you? Beautiful. I do this too. And if you're trading Apex, when you get to trouble and there's no signs of slowing, this is where once the price bar gets above, I'm right there because I still get an exit at fibs, right? And then once it gets above this one, I'm right there. And once it gets above that one, I'm right there. And then all it means is that you got the perfect exit. I think that's great. And David, you'll learn to not chase them out of fear. The more you learn to trust the advantages, the more you get into your chart reads and create expectations from your reads, the less fear plays a part in the roll. So 50-50, strong triggers, not a clear path, and then you do get a divergence, you do take the perfect entry, and it runs your butt right over. So, Paul, let's look at the full screen. It's not a termination, right? Not a strong bottom, so it's a 50-50 with divergence, and we pretty much set up our expectations there, didn't we? And if this had been from a strong bottom, Paul, I would have gotten on board with this one all day long. But because it's not, there's probably still some fight in there. That's okay. And you're right, it is. But that's okay. Every mistake we make is our own fault. Always. It's never anybody else's fault, guys. Every loser we take when we break our rules is our fault. But that's okay, right? It's not a big deal. We just learn from it. Look at that entry, though. Just one little thing. And guys, this is what you're going to find, is adherence to a plan is going to keep you out of so many losers. Adherence to a plan is going to keep you from taking so many maybe trades, but you've got to understand the working parts of your plan, and you've got to understand the pieces of your plan. And you've got to commit your rules and what it looks like to memory. And that's what helps eliminate emotion. So, this is the NASDAQ. Still not really a good bottom. And then it hits the mid band, which is where you expect it to bounce. And sure enough, it does. And then everything comes down. And you're in at 76.97. All right. Andy, are you with me? Yep. That's a termination condition. Right? Your smalls aren't through there, and they definitely weren't through there at the time of the pullback. And you had divergence. And it's the NASDAQ, so you also fought these small triggers. And there's a lot of challenges going on here. And I'm glad that you took your exit at the problems, because you traded into a termination condition. You traded into a pivot stop out. And this is the biggest lesson that I want you to see. And this says it straight from the user guide. So let me go back to the user guide. And let me take a picture of this right here, because I can use your picture to illustrate it. When price trades below, divergence line. Then back above the line, do not take any short trades. Do you see it, Andy? And this is such a real thing. This is such a real thing, guys. And I think that this is a lesson that we all have to take every now and then. But great management. Andy, great management. So you took a less than ideal scenario and you managed it aggressively. And that's exactly how you have to do it if you manage aggressively. So David, absolutely. There's such differences. And I'll go through it. Let me show you something. I'll take Andy's picture here real quick. Andy's entry chart on NASDAQ is a 13.2. On any other market, it's a 5.1. Andy's large chart is a 34.5. On any other market, it's a 13.2. Because the NASDAQ moves so fast that we have to triple workspace size. They really are, Andy. In order to even slow it down enough to become readable. And even with it slowed down, David, it's still probably 5 to 7 times faster than crude oil or the S&P. No, it's not. Not at all. Because, and let me go back to this one too. Do you see those small triggers on the entry chart, David? How they're up and they're strong? Let me go to my S&P. Would you go short on the S&P against those triggers? I hope not. I hope you never would. Of course not. So check this out, David. On his chart, that's the same size as what I just showed you. So on his chart, it's a 13.2, and it's crazy strong triggers up, which means that your rules have to change a little bit when you trade the NASDAQ because it's different time frames, and there's different things not to fight. And there's different entries to take, and there's different things that you have to be on the right side of to find success in this trade. And I don't ever tell you guys what to trade, right? But this is crude oil, and this is the S&P. And this is the NASDAQ. And if you can't execute a perfect chart read on the S&P, if you can't do it on crude oil, and you can't do it in a matter of seconds, you're never, and I'm not going to say never because that's very absolute, you are going to struggle tremendously trying to trade the NASDAQ. Does that make sense? So once you're comfortable with everything, if you guys want to go to that NASDAQ, hell, have fun. But the NASDAQ is difficult to trade if you're not 100% confident with what you're looking for. The NASDAQ is difficult to trade if you can't make decisions instantly. And this is a 50-50, and it has momentum and no divergence and a perfect entry. And absolutely beautiful, Andy. That's a good top. That's a pullback to resistance with all the triggers below it. That's momentum with the potential to break, and there is no divergence and a pullback and a beautiful entry and out at trouble. And Andy, I love this trade. It is still a 50-50. Isn't that why a great top, isn't that why no divergence increased the likelihood of success here? And maybe that's the same reason that this one with divergence didn't work. And God knows why you went long here. What the hell made you go long, Andy? This is the one that you didn't share with me. This is the one you thought you could hide from me. What made you go long? Guys, I see everything. But Andy, that's the chart that you didn't annotate. That's the chart that you didn't put in the room. You thought because you lost here that you should go long. And this is great. And Rakesh, I hope you see this. Just because it's a blue line, it doesn't mean go long, right? You still got to wait for the rules to be met. And you fought momentum, and that's the first cardinal sin. Andy, I love that you took this trade. And I wish that you were comfortable sharing it, because just because it says that it's likely to hold, just because it says that the market may go up, fighting strong triggers is one of the biggest reasons for losers for new users. Forming an opinion about an area holding rather than letting it hold and letting your triggers and your momentum change. So I love your 50-50, man. And I think that if you eliminate that one in the middle, if you eliminate that one with divergence, life gets a little easier for you. Everything says down. You are not quite to the termination condition. Enter the pullback into the large triggers. You kept the stop loss above the reversal bar, and it didn't quite hit your area, Grant. And you were able to get it, right? Couple ticks below. First profit at 100, and then you got out, gave it a chance to run, and it didn't. Nice trade, Grant. Trading with momentum, trading with direction, focused on those two very key advantages, creates a very manageable trade. I like it. 50-50 with divergence. You said no trade. You have fibs that aren't printing on your large chart, Paul. You're not showing synthetics on your large chart. Do you see it? You had a fib right here. And for whatever reason, your 5-1 fib isn't showing up on your large chart, which means you need to either get tick replay or rebuild the chart or do something, because this would have been a full-blown termination condition. And then the divergences are great. So awesome job following the plan on what the read was. Nicely done. Rules for the win again, guys. Rules for the win again. 50-50. By the time it's pulling back, it's trading into trouble, not your money. Outstanding. Not staying married to the 50-50, but recognizing that it reached trouble. And when it reached trouble, you just said, "Puh, not my trade." Nicely done, Andy. Great job following rules. And I guess that's what I'm trying to just really reinforce today. Rules, guys. Rules. When you're ready to make a trade, you think about the picture that you have to take. I love that. And you should be looking at your checklist and saying, man, do I have my rules met? I want to get in, but are my rules met? Grant said that with the smalls outside of the large and everything below resistance, he's going to pinpoint his entry and he's going to get paid all the way down. Hey, Grant, can I tell you that you have been spot on 100% today? You have been 100% with momentum, with direction. You have been 100% with a clear path. And I'm telling you, and Grant, was today easy? Like, compare it to days that were rough. Pretty effortless today, right? With all that momentum and a clear path, taking the best entries. And guys, I think this is one of the biggest lessons that you can take from the day, and Grant just gave it to you. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be difficult. So Grant, when the market kicks your ass, does it look like this? Does it look like this? Does it look, where's your other one? Like this? Awesome. Take care, Cav. Thank you for being here. And I think this is what we have to start reminding ourselves, guys, is that it doesn't have to be difficult. We don't have to fight triggers. We don't have to get away. You get caught in consolidations. What do you think one of the biggest rules that aren't met when the market consolidates? I would bet dollars to donuts that when you had weak triggers at a fib and a 50-50 that failed, and a 50-50 that failed, and a gap theory and a 50-50 that failed, and a perfect termination and a perfect termination, and a perfect termination, rule number 2 tends to be the thing that gives you that wherewithal. And the great thing is, though, Grant, is when you begin to recognize the consolidation, and it comes faster with time, what you begin to realize as well is that 50-50s, is that 50-50s at times of consolidation, when the market's been range bound, these trades are less likely to be successful. What is it? It's a fake out. It's a fake out breakout. The sellers said, hell no, right? The buyers try to go and they let them get past that key area. And this is where you begin to realize that these key areas are so amazing. The sellers go, come on, you got it. Oh, we're going to take your money. And they push it down to right here. And the buyers go, oh, yeah? Well, let's let you think you got it. And then they push against it. And the sellers go, ha, we got you. And the buyers go, yeah, but the triggers are a full bar away. And there's support. So we're going to make you think you've got this, but we're going to stop you again. And the buyers are going to push right to the key area. And there's a lot of force. And you think it's going to break out. And the sellers go, man, we're just not done. And the buyers go, dude, we already drew the line. And the sellers go, well, so did we. And eventually you get to this point where you're saying, man, it's got to break out beyond that range. And once it does, I'll look for my opportunities. But as long as it's in between those two fibs, I'm cool not doing anything. And guys, rule number 2 keeps you out. I didn't have momentum down, flat triggers into resistance, right? Smalls on the wrong side of the large into support. Weaker triggers on a 50-50. So there's a lot of things that the rules will help with. There's a lot of things that the rules will keep you out of trouble once you really get a solid grasp on the rules. Man, I think that's all our pictures. Good job, everybody. So bad bottom, let's go through the read. Bad bottom, straight to resistance, none of the triggers break. What do you guys think is a potential scenario here? From a bad bottom, it's reached the midband, it's reached resistance. Is anybody going long at the midband? Josh, let's do the whole thing, brother. All right. Let's go through the whole thing. Let me find a picture that's got a couple different examples of it. Boom, 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 boom. All right, this is a good one. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to define it. Guys, I believe in words, and I believe in the powers of the words, and I believe in words having power. So I'm going to define it real quick. What is a strong top or bottom? And guys, this is the first thing that you have to learn. A strong top or bottom is a no triggers through termination that reverses the market. Guys, this is the Nexgen 101 definition of a strong top or bottom. So in order to recognize a strong top or bottom, the first thing you have to do is you have to be able to recognize a termination condition. So if you can't recognize a termination condition, well, then you're going to struggle with strong tops and bottoms. I don't care if the triggers touch it, Josh. So let's do this. A termination condition is price reaches an area, triggers remain below resistance, or triggers remain above support. Notice that it doesn't say anything about triggers touching, Josh. All right, we'll go back and look at it. So the most remedial, Josh, the basic, the 101, that's not a termination that pushed the market down. So guys, is this a good top or a bad top? It's a pivot, it's a push down, that's a bad one. This is a no triggers through termination that reversed the market. What do you think, guys? Good or bad? Strong or weak? Good. It's that simple, Josh. This is a pivot, not at an area, not a termination. It can't be a good top, but that's okay. It's just kind of a continuation of that one. And then I come down and there is a no triggers. I mean, it didn't hit anything at all, right? So this would be bad. And now here's the trick question, guys. There's a no triggers through termination. Is this a strong top? Is this good or bad top? The termination condition rules are met. Would we call that a good top or a bad top? Thank you for that, Josh. It's a no triggers through termination that reverses the market. Do you notice how it never reverses the market? The large triggers remain up. So Josh, even though that was a no triggers through termination, I'm not going to call it a good top because it never gave me that reversal. It never gave me that twist that I was looking for. It never gave me that green to red. It just stayed green the whole way up. Yeah. So triggers through, red and blue, fib reverse. Nope, Rakesh, no triggers through. And no is the key word here. So let me go back and I got you. So do you see right here where the triggers didn't break? That's your perfect termination condition. And even let me take, let's do the stop stamp. That's a perfect termination condition. The triggers, price reached it, the triggers didn't break. So we're just going to call that a termination condition. Until it reverses the market, it's just a termination condition. But once it reverses it, now it's a good top or bottom. So here it's a termination condition, rock star, beautiful. But it never reverses the market. And sure enough, the market ends up going back up. Does that make sense? That's an awesome question. That's an amazing question. So if we scroll back a little bit more, price reached Fibonacci support, none of the triggers break. This is a termination condition. And then when it reverses the market, it becomes a strong top or bottom. Does that make sense, Josh? Until then, it's just a termination condition. That's all it is. And why do we talk about strong tops or bottoms? Because as you guys venture into the 50-50, it increases the likelihood of success over here. It increases the likelihood of success on these trades because the market came from a decision-making point. So let's go back to the live market. And then Josh, you're like, but Mark, dude, it was like a tick or two off, right? We were 3 ticks off of support, 2 ticks off of support here. So we have to do a couple things. The first thing we have to do is well, and it still wouldn't be a good bottom, right? So Josh, if you took this short right here and you said, I'm going short, odds favorable, clear path, didn't reach the area, and you took this short and you were in at 75, when the market hit 65, you probably got stopped out of it. Maybe you were able to get your $100 and go break even. Maybe you weren't. Maybe you took a small loser, right? Maybe you took a 4 or 5 tick loser. And that's the last time that the rules were met here. Does that make sense? So this may have been one of your costs of doing business. This may have been one of your, it just didn't work. And that's okay, because if you took the best entry, you lost virtually nothing on this trade. Guys, you're going to lose. I love it. Were you able to get $100 out of it? Or did it just take you out? Made 100 break even. Beautiful. Great entries create manageable trades, Josh. But it's still not a good bottom, right? Maybe if I got 3 divergences here, I might say, yeah, that's as far as they're going. That's probably what they're going to do. But now we're into this resistance, right? And let's just for grins, and I won't be here for it. I'll watch it, and I'll post it in the room if it does. Let's see if the sellers were hell-bent on hitting that fib. Let's see if this is just a little hiccup in the way. The buyer's saying they're close, Let's test it, right? And we'll know, Josh, whether or not everything gets above 82.90, whether or not that's as far as they're going to get. But right now, all we know is that I don't have momentum because my triggers don't match. I don't have a clear path up because price reached it and none of the triggers broke. And I'm not just arbitrarily taking a short trade because there's nothing pretty on my charts to suggest that the market's going down. So everybody, and especially you guys that are working on appreciating and trusting these concepts that it's okay to wait for rules met. Josh, you took the best shot at a short that failed, and now we're in a holding pattern. Awesome. And guys, these are the little things that if you don't ask these questions, I never get an opportunity to talk about them. So give yourself an idea, right? Write down on a piece of paper. What do you think you need to work on? What do you think you need to work on? So if you're a 50-50 trader, your goal, if you keep losing these 50-50 trades, then first of all, your goal is to make sure that you understand what a 50-50 is, right? And if you're unclear, just ask. We'll go through it. And then it's imperative that you understand what a good top or bottom is, and it's imperative that you understand momentum. And then, guys, I'm going to scroll up real quick. Where do I learn about termination, strong tops or bottoms? I learn them from the high probability trend trade. And where do I learn about momentum? From the high probability trend trade. And where do I learn about termination conditions? Where do I get my best understanding about areas that may stop the market or that are broken or have the potential to break? From the high probability trend trade. And where do I learn how to pinpoint where the market is most likely to continue? From the high probability trend trade. So I say this like a broken record, like a ginormous pain in your ass. But if you start looking for all the trades before you figured out how to take a high probability trend trade, before you understand what the individual pieces look like, before you commit them to memory, guys, all you're doing is you're setting yourself up for confusion. You're setting yourself up for frustration. And ultimately, you're probably setting yourself up for failure. So I'm going to run over a little bit today because you know what? I can. It's my class. Post your trades in the room, guys. Post your chart reads in the room. Talk to me about everything you're doing, but make sure that you annotate the chart. And once you have rules, it becomes even more imperative that you write your rules on the chart, because one of the great things about this classroom, I think personally, is that I'm very willing to hold you accountable for your rules. Does that make sense? So Andy, if you post clear path, but it was a 50-50, I'm going to call you on it. David, I'm not sure. Let's go look again. Simple, easy trade. Did I read it correctly? Odds favorable momentum. Clear path. The only challenge, David, is that you don't trust your entry enough. So, David, can I tell you something? Are you sitting down? Are you with me, David? Let me know that you're here. Because you don't get to walk away from this. You don't get to not hear this. Are you here, David? Give me a Y if you are. Guys, don't ask me for a review, then 1 second later not be here. There we go. Nope, that's Josh. David? David Bout. So, well, fudge. Here he comes. You're in the car? All right, David. So do you remember the trade? I don't want you looking at it while you're driving. You remember the trade though, right? All right, I'm just going to assume that you can hear me. David, you traded with the direction of the market. That was your first victory. You traded with odds favorable momentum. That was your second victory. You traded with a clear path. That was your third victory. And you traded from the area inside of favorable large triggers, except your entry was just a little bit late, and you took profits right at the termination condition. And David, this is it, brother. This is the one that you've been fighting tooth and nail. And this was probably the easiest trade that you've ever taken. Because if you look at the one preceding it, you didn't have momentum. You didn't have a clear path. And man, you jumped out of it for 3 ticks. David, this is the one that I want you to celebrate. This is the one that I want you to embrace. This is the one that when you guys spend so much time telling me that I'm struggling, it's because you're not taking this trade. So David, drive safe. Beautiful trade. Beautiful trade. This is where you have to make a judgment call, Josh. It didn't reach the area. This is where you have to make the decision. It was close enough. And then Haji, I'll get it. I promise. But Josh, let me show you this. And you've probably seen it, but this is for everyone else. And guys, I'm just going to keep talking until we're done. Fibs are made from thousands of calculations, right, Josh? Are you comfortable with that? And David, I promise you, that's how it can feel. And I love that you posted that. And dude, I can't tell you enough, David. I'm so excited for you right now because what you did is you just crossed over to the easy. You did. You just crossed over to the easy. And because it felt so easy and because it worked so well, that's what you're going to start looking for. And David, man, I'm excited for you right now. I really am, honest to goodness. So your fibs come from thousands of calculations, guys, and then your software takes these thousands of calculations and turns them into areas. So from all of these measurements, you get this blue fib. So Josh, this is where you start playing that close enough game, right? It's far enough away that with the perfect conditions, it's worth taking a shot. And I love your shot. But once it reverses and it clears it and everything goes the other way, you can say, you know what? That's probably as far as they were getting. And that's what I was telling you. And you'll be able to know that pretty soon. So this is where you come into the idea that now I have odds favorable and the triggers are up and they're above support, but I do have split triggers. And I have a couple divergences that quit printing at the 12 o'clock, but I know they were there. And I don't really have any lines inside of favorable large triggers. And is it possible, Josh, that they didn't make it? You don't really have that clear path that we were hoping for, and that's starting to print divergences. And you can say to yourself, man, I have split triggers. I don't have any areas inside of triggers. This kind of sucks a little bit. Maybe I'll wait for something better. And guys, I know I'm not the only person that says this kind of sucks a little bit and then takes the trade anyway. But you start convincing yourself that there's a reason for you to take a trade and a reason to not. And then Haji, odds favorable, didn't quite make it. Perfect entry. You take your target, one divergence, totally acceptable stop out. Nothing wrong with this trade at all, Haji. Because you had odds favorable and a clear path. You only had one divergence. Why would you expect that market not to continue down with this look, right? That's a realistic expectation. And the fact that you got your 100, the fact that it only got you for a couple ticks, you still made money. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And then Grant, done for the day. Odds favorable, clear path, perfect entry, money, 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 money. Grant, you get the microphone tomorrow. You get the microphone tomorrow, Grant. I want you to teach everybody to do what you did. Easy stuff, guys. So what did we learn? Okay, I'm going to sum up and then we're going to call it. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to shut down YouTube. Guys, today was recorded.